It's the Orioles on Masson on a gorgeous night for baseball at Camden Yards. It's the Orioles and the Cleveland Indians tonight, Game 2 in this 4-game series. And hi, everyone. I'm Jim Hunter. Thanks for joining us. For the Orioles, the month of June has been a challenge. In fact, if you go back to June 3rd, the Birds have gone just 5-11, and with last night's loss, once again fell a game below 500. And the struggles in the month and the challenges can be directly traced to the pitching. In fact, the starters have had 9 starts since June the 3rd of 5 innings or less. That has led to ineffectiveness, and that has led to the bullpen having to pick up a lot of slack. Since June the 3rd, the starters have gone just 3-11 with a 9.08 combined ERA, the highest in Major League Baseball. As a result, the bullpen has struggled a bit, 2-0, but that's a much higher ERA than the Orioles are accustomed to at 5.85. The batting average is right in line with their season average. They're 254, 4.6 runs per game, but not enough to overcome what the pitchers have given up. And Jim Palmer, that's been the struggle. The pitchers giving early leads and the Orioles hitters having to play catch-up almost daily.
Yeah, and some of the leads, especially the ones in New York, were insurmountable. But, one of the, I guess one of the equations of winning is you always want to knock out the starting pitcher. You want to have quality at bats or hope that he doesn't pitch well. Then you get to the soft, they call it underbelly of the bullpen. Maybe guys that are AAA or 4A pitchers that are there because they're not at the back end of the bullpen. Because we looked at all those numbers, that's not happening against Gibbons and Brock. It's happening for guys that have been up and down, and that's because the starters just really haven't. Tillman, who's going to pitch tonight, hasn't been healthy, or at least coming off a shoulder injury. Gausman hasn't pitched up to his expectations. Jimenez was in the bullpen, pitched very well on Sunday. So all in all, it's just, you're bringing in guys before you want to. They're overused. That's why they have to go down to Norfolk, bring in fresh arms, and they're not as good as the team in the bullpen that led the American League in ERA last year because of the fact the starters haven't gone. The irony, Jim, is that last year the Orioles went 19-9 in the month of June. They gave up over 5 runs a game, but what did they do? They scored over 6.6 runs a game. That wouldn't even work in this month. The pitching has been that poor.
Well, and as far as the starters go, you go back to the weekend, winning Saturday and Sunday against St. Louis to get that series. Wade Miley and Ubaldo won starts back-to-back days. It looked like maybe they would turn the corner, but then last night, Dylan Bundy, who has been their most consistent starter, he struggled a little bit.
Yeah, and I suppose, we were talking about during the game, and anytime you get beat 12-0, it's not like you go home and said, well, if you only did this or whatever, because they thrashed the Orioles. The other thing is, and Dylan was, 3 scoreless innings, and then he made a couple of bad pitches. This team, talking about the innings, have won 6 in a row. And again, Corey Kluber, he had to beat him 1-0 last night if he gave up a run, which he didn't. So again, that's one of those nights you put it. You're going to play 4 games against the Indians. You weren't going to win anyway because Kluber was that good. You would like to have made it a little bit closer. You couldn't, so you win tonight and you turn the page and you kind of do what we've seen good Oriole teams do in the past.
And the other struggle for this team has been keeping the roster intact. In fact, before today's game, 2 more roster moves. Craig Gentry is back and Donnie Hart is back. David Washington goes back to AAA. Vidal Nuno goes back to AAA. Donnie Hart hopefully ironed out his mechanical issues and he'll be able to better serve to get left-handers out.
Well, that's the whole key for Donnie Hart, and that's the way they used him. But again, because of what went on, Donnie Hart had to pitch more against right-handers because, again, of injuries in the bullpen, O'Day and Bredden. So, again, he's back. Gentry gives them somebody that can steal bases and a very good defensive player and can play against left-handed pitching.
So tonight it's the Orioles and Indians. Birds looking for a win to get even in this series as Chris Tillman takes the mound. We're coming back to Camden Yards. Lineups and first pitch are next. Brought to you by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Well, after a stormy day yesterday, beautiful weather today. Our BGE Home game time temperature. BGE Home is Baltimore's home team for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Why would you call anyone else? 86 degrees, but that humidity has dropped to 37%. Partly cloudy, mostly sunny skies, depending on your perspective. So the Indians come in having won 6 in a row. Here is their lineup for tonight, same as last night. Lindor, Kipnis, and Ramirez with Edwin Encarnacion in the cleanup spot. He's been on a tear over the last 10 games. Chisenhall, Santana, and Gomes with Zimmer and Jackson.
And Chris Tillman, well, stopped the skid. He's lost, at least personally, 5 in a row. So 0-5 after winning his first game against the White Sox. Better command means, well, better pitches out of the middle of the plate, a lower pitch count, and again, that's higher than he would like. And you know, been there, done that. It's not the first time he's ever had an 0-5 month. You go back to 2015. He was 11-11 that year, but he was 0-5. And what did he do in the month of June? He went 4-0. So turn it around. The numbers are not good at all. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that. But he was better against the White Sox, and it was actually, what, a 1-run ball game, 1-1 going into the 6th, and that's where he ran into problems. But again, against and you mentioned these, when we talk about the Indians, I mean, they hit about every pitch thrown last night. And Lindor, you can see his numbers, 0-for-6, one of the few guys that didn't, or in fact the only guy that didn't get a hit. So again, you know, you got to pitch well, and it has to be sustained, because we saw that Dylan Bundy last night, he went into the 4th. It was 0-0 against Corey Kluber and just made a series of bad pitches, didn't hit his spots, and normally he does that, and they took advantage of it.
Yeah, Dylan said following the game last night that he battled command from the warm-up in the bullpen that carried over into the game.
Yeah, he felt even some of the outs were loud outs, as he said.
A 1-2 on Lindor, who has been slumping coming into Baltimore. Last 19 games, batting just .169. He is 13 for 77 in that stretch. And on the Indians road trip tonight, it's game 6 of an 8-game trip. He's just 3 for 19. And the 2-2 slap foul.
Yeah, that's again, that's what they did so well last night. In fact, well, I mean, that's what good hitters do. I mean, he couldn't hit that pitch, so he fouls it off, hopes it down the road, especially if it goes to 3-2, because he, you know, Chris Tillman controls the running game as well as any tall pitcher in baseball. I mean, year in and year out. So he's just hoping that if he runs the count to 3-2, which 2-2 now, maybe he'll get a better pitch to hit.
Line the other way, and that's a foul ball, and just foul.
Yeah, you look at Tilly, you know, the average fastball for the year is about 91, and then, you know, the slider in his last game, he threw 22 of them, and that's about 85 miles per hour, and then he threw 21 changeups and then 11 curveballs. And again, you know, the strike curveball was the lowest. Fastball, he was actually around 82% of the strikes that he threw with his fastball.
And he serves it the other way for a base hit, and that's what the Indians are so good at, putting the ball in play and going with the pitch. So a leadoff single for Lindor.
Yeah, he gets to see 7 pitches. So Kim, Jones, and Smith, that's your outfield. Machado, Tejada, Hardy on the disabled list with the broken right hand or wrist. Scope, Mancini, and then Wellington Castillo doing the catching. So, you know, everybody says Kim doesn't play well, but he does hit the cutoff man. Big out. Diaz runs himself into an out, and then even last night, made a couple of nice plays. Gabriel Noah saying thank you very much.
Well, we saw the tail end of that against the wall. That ball was smoked off the bat. He did a nice job getting back on that. Here's Kipnis, and he'll take a strike.
Yeah, you saw Cleveland. What happens? You get to see 5, 6, 7 pitches, and then you hang a curveball, and Lindor did exactly what he was supposed to. And that's why Francisco Lindor, he has speed. I mean, he's a switch hitter. If he hit 7 home runs in April, and I think he thought he was going to probably hit 30. And he got into bad habits. That was a perfect swing.
0-2 on the foul ball. Well, Tillman is trying to break out of this funk. He has lost 5 consecutive starts. Not just decisions, but 5 starts in a row. And his ERA in that span, 11.51. He's trying to avoid becoming the first Orioles starter since 2011 to lose at least 6 consecutive starts, and that was Brian Mattis in 2011, who happened to lose 7 consecutive starts. So he's trying to break out of that. And I was surprised to see this, but then I remembered in 1974 you had the injury plagued year, and that interrupted your string of 21 seasons. You actually had a 7 consecutive start losing streak.
Well, I went from 2-0 to 2-7. Yeah, because I hurt my elbow, and I tried to pitch, and it was a nerve injury.
That ball's hit deep to right, and it's hooking back.
Well, the funny thing about it, I always tell Earl Weaver stories, but I started out 2-0, and then I actually, we had gone to the DH, but what do you do when you're hanging around? So, I take batting practice. I hit a ball at the end of the bat, and then fingers started flipping around. So Earl calls me in. I think I'm about to go from 2-0 to 2-4, and he says, "Hey, I trust you, man. You can lose 20. I'm going to stick with you." Well, when I lost 7 in a row, he called me in, and the story changed. He goes, "I got to think about the other players. Now I'm from 2-0 to 2-7. He said, "We're taking you out of the rotation. You're going to the disabled list." But the thing is that I went out, saw Dr. Curlin, who was one of the, the foremost guys, and he said, "You have ulnar nerve entrapment. Take them 6 weeks off." It took 3 weeks off. We won 26 out of 31 to win, and I won 5 games and then lost 1-0 in the playoffs. So I was able to come back, and I mean that's my point of the keys. Tillman's gone down this road before. Now hasn't been hurt and had a shoulder problem like he had over the offseason. Had to get the injections in December and missed most of spring training. I think it's a lot different, Jim, when you get hurt once the season's progressed, when you're pretty much in shape. He never really had that luxury.
Well, it does give you an idea of how tough it is to pitch up here successfully and consistently as Kipnis pops it up. That was a good pitch by Tillman. And Castillo called off by Manny, who makes a basket catch.
Yeah, Willie Mays almost from the ground. Oh, wow.
So you look on this list, there's 2 Hall of Famers on this list.
Well, it happens, and and again, I mean, if you can look at why, okay, the velocity's gone down, and that's important, but I think probably more important, I mean, if we look at right here, I mean, look at you go from actually throwing at least 1 out of every 2 to 4 out of every 10, and then your stuff's not as crisp. I mean, you saw it on the curveball. The curveball kind of just rolled up there when he's at his best, and maybe we'll see that tonight, hopefully. You don't got to get that hanging hook.
Well, one to Jose Ramirez, who is red hot. Comes in with a 7-game hitting streak, has that batting average up to .318, which is 7th best in the league.
Yeah, I mean, the fastball's all right. Trying to hit the outside corner, but instead of hitting it, and for me, the nerve, I'd throw the ball for the corner and it would go off, and you'd go, what's going on here? And Chris, I've been talking to him for really the last 5-6 weeks, and he said you got in bad habits when you favor your shoulder, so the command not there, and if the stuff goes down, that's when you get in trouble. And you got to make those kind of pitches, and he's capable of doing that. I mean, it's perfect changeup. Ramirez at 14 doubles in 7 games. He's thinking, I'm going to get a fastball to hit. And again, if you're really going well, he would have hit that ball right to your second baseman for a double play, but he swings right through it.
Well, 2-1 on Ramirez. Runner at first, 1 down.
And there's another one. If you look at Dylan Bundy, he used his changeups quite well through the first 3 innings, but he made a couple of bad pitches with it. One to Austin Jackson that really kind of turned the game around in a sense. It was 2-0. He was 1 for 19. He kind of hung it and he hit it down the left field corner. So it's all right to use your pitches, but when they know that you're not throwing as hard as you used to, so they can wait a little bit longer. And that's what the scouting reports do. They can look at film, they can look at radar guns, they get all the advanced. And again, that's just that's 6 inches off. That's 3 fastballs all in the same place. So you got to try to figure it out. Okay, what's the deal? Why is it doing that? And not the umpire.
So a second 3-2 count this inning. And it's low ball 4, and there's a walk.
And Lindor wasn't even running, which is surprising. That gives you an idea. So boy, you're asking for trouble early on. You know, you come out, you want to have a first start. He's given up 13 runs in 9 starts in the first inning. Now, what, six of those came in New York. But even though it's been a little bit of a struggle, and that's what they're looking to do here. Josh Tomlin hadn't been pitching well either, so they'd like to give him some runs.
Edwin Encarnacion is heating up. 6 home runs, 15 RBIs in his last 11 games as he settles in his new home in Cleveland. Ball 1 outside.
And again, that slider, it's, you know, that's doesn't have the normal tilt. It's a little bit flatter. I mean, he's a .293 a lifetime hitter off Chris Tillman with 3 home runs and 5 RBIs, and those are the Toronto Blue Jay numbers.
Sure use a double play ball here. Here's the 1-0, and it's low. Throw back behind the runner, and out at second base is Lindor. What a throw by Castillo.
Yeah, you're trying to get a good jump, and again, he swings through it, and what a throw. I mean, you cannot, if he went down there, it's 128 feet. And again, he just takes it, and I mean, he called him out, but he's not leaving.
Well, Terry Francona held up the hand. We want to look this over. The 30 seconds has expired.
Yeah. And I think you have a legitimate complaint if you're Buck. You'd be. Yeah, I don't think there was enough to change it. Looked like the tag might have got him on the wrist a little bit, but boy, is that a big pickoff. You know, trying to help Chris Tillman at least, you know, kind of tread water till he gets a better feel for his pitches. So he gets him up on the wrist, but I'm not sure you could have overturned that, and they don't even challenge it.
A 1-1 on Encarnacion with Ramirez at first now, and there's a wild pitch.
Well, that's about, that was what 50 Cent when he hit the mascot in Chicago. But he doesn't get the big bucks to pitch. And he, you know, Chris will do this, but never this wild. And I don't know if he caught a spike. And you ask him, okay, you know, 2 or 3 feet outside, that was a little bit farther than that. He says, I don't know what causes that. But I haven't seen that before.
So another runner in scoring position, and a little low to Encarnacion for ball 3. And Encarnacion, he does not mind working the count. And he'll draw his walks. In fact, he's second in the American League of walks. He has 42. So yeah, he's a slugger, but he is a very, very good hitter with an excellent batting eye. He's very patient, as the Orioles saw all those years when he was in Toronto. And that ball is crushed, and the Indians have the lead. Home run to left field, a 2-run shot, and Cleveland breaks on top. So the first inning struggles continue for Chris Tillman.
Yeah, that's the flat slider that just kind of looms in the strike zone entirely too long. So how big is that pickup? The pickoff, you know, there's a run right there. So take a look, and again, you know, right here, there's the flat slider. Right there, there's one over the middle plate, wasn't very good. That pulls it offside. There's a changeup that misses. Now watch this slider. And it's just like the one that they actually picked Lindor off, but this time he swings. The count's 3-1. You know, we drove in what, 5 runs on Sunday with 2 home runs.
Another one all the way back to the screen. That's 2 in this inning. .454-foot home run.
Well, that's kind of the one he hit in the upper deck on Sunday in Minnesota. He had 2. He hit a hanging breaking ball, very much like the pitch he just hit off Chris, and then he hit one into the second deck in Minnesota. The park in Minnesota, much bigger ballpark than Camden Yards, but it didn't matter as they went in and swept 4 in a row.
Kipnis can't reach the fastball, a ball and a strike. Chisenhall, rather. A little bit too tight, so 2-1 on Lonnie.
Yeah, the only thing that I notice is that, you know, a lot of people, you know, you get all these numbers now and they can show you where your arm release point is. His release point is lower than it has been in the past, and I think that's why the stuff is just flatter.
And he keeps staring down at the rubber.
Well, we always talk about the first inning, you know, against a good hot hitting team. That's why you come out, you know, kick a hole. I used to ask Pat Santarone, the late Pat Santarone, our groundskeeper, I said, hey, I don't want to stand out there for 5 minutes. Chases another high fastball, so just maybe give me like about a half an inch so I don't have to kick it out as much, because you push off the pitching rubber. The pitching rubber is 24 inches wide, home plate 17. That's why you see pitchers, you know, throwing from different places on the rubber to get a different angle or release point.
Pop foul, that'll be back in the crowd out of play, so Chisenhall extends the at bat. Another 3-2 count, third one this inning. There you go. The first inning runs 15 earned runs allowed, and this is 9th start. Encarnacion, his 4th career home run off Tillman. So the 7th pitch he fouls off to continue.
Now, see, whatever that feel is, and you know, it's hard. It's not like, you know, if you're ever a golfer and go to the driving range and hitting balls, and you can maybe work on hitting some draws and or just trying to get maybe contact if you're a novice. But when you get on the course, you don't have the opportunity. You know, you got to hit it to the green, and if you don't, it goes in the bunker. Whatever. Pitching's the same way. And that ball again out of his hand is, and there's 92, and we saw that in Chicago. The velocity would spike from 90 to 92.
Well, it's become a 31 pitch inning, and it continues as Roger McDowell comes out for a chat. Well, the Orioles starters as a group are last in the American League. They're 19-27. Their ERA is 5.54 combined, and they're the only starting staff with an ERA above 5. There's the first pitch strike percentage, Jim, and that has dropped.
Yeah, he's at 40% today, and I just don't. You just can tell that something's going on, whether it's mechanical. I don't think he'd be pitching if it was physical, but the release point, you know, can't stay on top of the ball because he backspins the ball. You know, we have another graph that'll show you that the spin rate is down a little bit. Now that could be arm speed. But you're hoping that he holds it at 2, and then, you know, you do some damage against Josh Tomlin, who's not having as good a year as he would like after winning 13 games, and you move on from there. But you're right about the 32 pitches. It puts the Orioles exactly where they've been since that graphic we used in the opening, since June 3rd, where you're going to guys you don't want to go to. And you're going earlier because of injuries. You know, you don't have O'Day, you don't have Britton. Hopefully they'll come back in the next 2 weeks, but the starters still have to pitch better.
Well, and the other part of that is in the 16 games since June 3rd, they've had 9 starts of 5 innings or less, so that's one more than half, which means all those extra innings go to the bullpen. Alan Mills has been a busy man out there, and it looks like someone's going to get going here in the first.
And you have another guy that only swings at strikes. I mean, he'll strike out a lot, but he'll walk a lot.
This is playable for Kim, and he'll run it down for the final out. So Tillman gets out of it without any further damage. We'll head to the bottom of the first. Indians 2, and here come the Birds. Nice crowd on hand on this Tuesday night. And here's the Orioles lineup, brought to you by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Smith, Machado, Adam Jones in the number 3 spot. Look at those numbers against Josh Tomlin. Trumbo, Mancini, and Scope. Castillo, Kim, and Tejada for the Birds.
So Josh Tomlin comes in at 4-8 with a 5.83 ERA. Well, follow the leader, and again, and why not? I mean, Corey Kluber, again, he was aggressive. He threw a lot of strikes. Of course, his stuff's a little bit better than Tomlin, but Tomlin's more of a finesse guy. And again, pinpoint control. 44 games in a row. 44 of them. That's a lot of games. 2 walks or less. So he's a strike thrower. This year they've hit him hard. And again, you can see fly ball pitcher. I don't know how that'll work in this park if it warms up.
It's ahead of Smith 0-1. Smith has hit in the last 2 games, 4 for 8 in those games. Batting average up to .272 with 7 home runs.
Yeah, only 1 for 6 off Josh Tomlin.
Right into the shift. That's the shortstop Lindor. And 2 pitches, 1 down in the first.
We'll take a look at their defense, and actually a pretty mobile outfield. Jackson, a former center fielder, and left Zimmer, Chisenhall, former third baseman, number 1 draft choice. Ramirez, Lindor, Kipnis, Santana, former catcher, and Yan Gomes. Second straight night we've seen him behind the plate.
Manny Machado 0 for 3 in the opener. He is 3 for 18 in his last 5 games. There have been signs that it looks like he's breaking out, and then he'll take an 0 for 3. So he's trying to find that consistency and find that comfort with his stroke.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you throw last night out the window. That's how good Corey Kluber was. I mean, Kim hit a couple of balls hard. There weren't a lot of balls hit hard at all.
Well, he got into that one. Back it goes, and the O's are on the board. That ball is gone. Machado hits it out his 14th. It's a 2-1 game.
Yeah, you kind of look at Josh Tomlin as a little bit like what the Orioles faced when the Cards came in. You got Carlos Martinez throwing 93 to 100 with a great slider, and then you got Adam Wainwright, who is a little bit older than Josh Tomlin, but again, similar styles, not overpowering. And Adam Jones hit an early curveball off him for a home run, and the Orioles would score 15 runs on that Saturday afternoon.
So a key home run as the O's answer back. Yep, they can enjoy it. So Manny's 14th, and that ties Chris Davis for the team lead. So here's Adam Jones. We showed you those big numbers against Tomlin. He goes the opposite way down the line, and it's going to fade back foul.
Oh, the first home run then Wainwright is the curveball. Check this one out. And again, I mean, nice approach. He's able to cover it because of the speed, about 78 miles per hour, and then gets it high. And in this ballpark, easily a home run.
Adam rips it to third, but there's Ramirez, 2 men down.
So again, he throws the changeup. That's what he got Smith out on. Curveball's been hit for a home run. Cutter, look at the average on that. Now he throws it. He gets some strikeouts, even though the curveball is a big swing and miss. And then his fastball, we've seen that tonight, 88. He's not overpowering. He wants to move it. The cutter, I would have thought that average would be a lot lower. But then again, and the other thing is 424 with runners in scoring position. And that is a huge average. League average around 256. So. He's almost about 160 points higher. That's hard to maintain that, even if you tried. But started in this organization, Jim, as you know, in what, 12th year
with
the
the
Indians.
Longest tenured Indian player.
He's had Tommy John surgery, so the elbow reconstruction. He had shoulder surgery in 2015.
19th round draft pick back in 2006, and he's had a real nice career. He pitched in college at Texas Tech. He's out of White House, Texas now in his 8th season. He has 53 big league wins, 3 of those against the Orioles. A 1-2 on Trumbo. 2 outs and the base is empty. And he checks in time as that one bounces in. Trumbo 4 for 15 on the homestand, and 2 of the hits are home runs. Machado's home run has the Orioles on the board. Good take.
Yeah, a little cutter. And then hit that outside corner. Yeah, I don't know if the Orioles, they were talking about it today. They're still talking about the slider curveball combination and moving fastball that Corey Kluber had last night, and got him with a cutter. Throw it right at his front hip, and he cut it back to hit the inside corner.
So the strikeout ends the inning, but Machado goes deep, his 14th of the year, and it's a 2-1 game. All fans receive a Dylan Bundy t-shirt. Good seats remain for the game, and they're available for as low as $15. So get online, Orioles.com, or 888-848-BIRD. And a nice gesture today during batting practice. All of Dylan's teammates were wearing his Dylan Bundy t-shirt for BP.
There's a sea of orange. Orange shorts because of the warmth, the heat, and then the orange shirts.
Yan Gomes will lead off. Zimmer and Jackson will follow. And first ball swinging, pops it up. Castillo and Mancini. Mancini calls him off, and he has it for the out. So that'll up your pitch average. One pitch, one down.
Well, you have to understand how frustrating it must be for Chris Tillman, and you go through these periods, and if you're sitting at home and you're going, well, doesn't look like he has any idea. Well, he does, because since really, you know, came over in the Adam Jones trade for all the way for but you know, Eric Bedard back all the way in 2008 and struggled, but from 2012 on, he's been lights out. You know, came up a little bit before the All-Star break, went 9-3, and then won 16 games, and then 13, 11-11 when he had a hip problem. 16 games last year. At one point, he won all of his home starts here last year. It was 9-0, and then you get a little bit of shoulder problems. So trying to fight through that and doing it the only way you can, going out there. But again, it's an automatic 3 or 4 inches outside off the plate.
Well, that year in 2000, he had already pitched in the big leagues, and the Orioles wanted him to get more consistent. And Zimmer slices it to left. That ball's trouble for Kim, and he's not going to get it. And heading to second base with a 1-out double is Bradley Zimmer.
Yeah, because the book on Chris Tillman is that he is much better to his arm side. And where is that? Watch this. Right there. And that's ball on the corner. But again, I mean, I'm sure he looked at films. I'm sure that the hitting instructor said, hey, he will not pitch you in until he gets ahead. So look away. He got it away, and he took a good pitch and turned it into a double by smoking it to left field. And this kid can run. So very hard if you get a base hit not to score.
So the 24-year-old rookie at second base for Austin Jackson, who's in his first year in Cleveland. Following last year, Jackson became a free agent. He was with the White Sox last year, and he had trouble getting a contract, and he finally signed with the Indians. It was a minor league deal with an invite to spring training, and he made the team. So he was confident in his ability that he'd be able to stick, and he did.
Well, the year before he had a nice year with Seattle, so he could still play. He's still young.
30.
Yeah, it seems like he's older than that. He came up with the Yankees and then traded to the Tigers and had some really good years.
Yeah, the Yankees drafted him in 2005 out of high school in Denton, Texas.
Apparently, I ran into him yesterday. I said, can you still go to the hoop? He goes, because he was a very, very good basketball player. He goes, oh, yeah. Good try there. And we don't see too many of those. And when he can find that point, because that's to throw a ball lone away, righty to righty, and just misses right there. Wellington Castillo tries to bring it back. That's when you know your windup's good. It means that you can, load, and you can get over your front side, you can get the full extension you need.
Well, 3-1 with the leadoff hitter on deck. Jackson 3 for 17 head-to-head against Tillman. He has Zimmer at second base with one down. So Tillman looking for a shutdown inning. Allows a runner in scoring position with the one out. Fly ball to right. That's playable for Smith. And 2 down. Zimmer has to hold, and he's back to the base. So Tillman an out away from getting out of it. Fans, text Masson's word of the day, which is protection, to 29292 for your chance to win a meet and greet with Chris Davis from Masson. That's protection to 29292, brought to you by Chesapeake Employers Insurance, your workers' compensation specialist. Fans up on the rooftop bar in center field. They had the social media night there tonight, which is always a very popular event. Rod Brock was involved in that this year. Yeah.
I saw them.
Rock Kabatko.
I think Dan Duquette was out there, Vice President of Baseball Operations. I think he was being interviewed. Well, the single the first time on a curveball. Saw what, about 7 pitches. Finally got one up and away and just pinged it into left. So I'm sure Chris remembers that. Lindor amazingly low 172 with runner in scoring position numbers. But see, to me, in numbers, when you're not pitching well, it doesn't matter what a guy was before. What is it? Yesterday was a canceled check. Tomorrow's a promissory note. Today's cash on the barrel.
Never heard that.
Yeah, so what can you do today?
Foul back. So 2-1 the count on Lindor. Tillman's only win was his first start. He came off the disabled list and beat the White Sox on May the 7th. He's 1-3 at home, and he's 0-2 in 3 starts on the road. Of course, in his career, he has always enjoyed pitching here at Camden Yards. .73-53, 20 above 500 in his career. Fouls it off the other way again, trying to go to left field. So the count evens 2-2.
And a little more velocity at 92. And it's not that he's trying to throw harder. It's just probably that mechanically he was able to get his arm into a position where he could do that. Yeah, he's always had the ability, it seems, to make the right pitch at the right time. And I mean, that's That's how you come in at 73 and 53. You know, the ERA is over 4 runs, 4.26, but that's a lot of his early years before he really kind of changed his windup and started working with Brady Anderson to get bigger, stronger.
Well, one of the things about Tillman that you forget, when the Orioles made that trade you talked about February 8th of 2008, he was an A-ball in 2007. So they got a pitcher who was still trying to develop and gain consistency and gain experience. And when he came to the Orioles, he got a lot of that experience at Bowie. So he was a very young pitcher, a young prospect when that trade was made.
Yeah, he went to Bowie and immediately went to 11 and 4. And when he came up, he came up back, up and back for about 3 years. And when he pitched that game in Seattle, about 125 pitches, still throwing 95 in the ninth inning.
And right to scope. Tillman's going to get out of it.
Yep.
Lindor retired, so the 1-out double left stranded at second base. Mid-second at Camden Yards. Cleveland 2, the Birds 1. James Gaver of Waynesboro has won $500 for being selected and will win $500 more for every Orioles home run hit tonight. That's already happened with Manny Machado going deep. Play home run Rich's scratch-offs and win up to $50,000 or enter non-winning tickets for a chance to be the contestant of the game. Visit mdlottery.com/home run. Well, Tomlin back to work. Here's Trey Mancini. Trey had his 9-game hitting streak halted last night by Corey Kluber. There were a lot of 0 for 3s on the scorecard last night. That's how good Kluber was. And there's a strike on the corner.
Yeah, I think Superman would have had trouble hitting it last night. That's how good he really. About 106 pitches, 80 strikes. And for Trey, this will be a challenge because he changes speeds. He's, like we said, 44 straight games, 2 walks or less. He's going to cut it. The big hook going to come in like he is right now. There's a cut fastball. That little movement can get some outs.
Bradley Zimmer in center field. He has it, and 1 down. Well, Tomlin against the East, he's 11 and 13 in his career, but his last 5 starts, Jim, it has been a struggle.
Well, it is, and again, he missed almost all of 2013 with the elbows, and he's made his way back, and it's amazing. He came back in 2015 after early shoulder problems, but he went 7-2, but not a lot of innings, and then last year did get to pitch in 29 starts and won 13 games. But he just knows how to pitch, and he's a comfortable. Kluber's not a comfortable guy. Struck out 11. I mean, you have to work to even make contact against him. Timlin's one of those guys. Well,
Jonathan Scope, deep left field, and this game is tied. Scope's 14th, and it's a 2-2 game.
Yeah, like I was saying, I mean, he's not a guy that you're going up there like Chris Sale or even David Price or King Felix, where you're going, boy, I really have my workout, because it's just a little more comfortable. So when he makes mistakes, and we've already seen the curveball to Manny Machado and then a fastball in the middle of the plate there to Jonathan Scope, he can give up some hard hit balls, and that's what the Orioles do. We saw that over the weekend once they got Carlos Martinez out of the picture.
So number 14 for Scope ties the game at 2, and another $500 for our Maryland Lottery contestant of the game, James Gaver of Waynesboro. Boy, that got out in a hurry.
Yes, it is. And there's the good curveball right there. And again, he's not trying to throw it here, but it was there. And in this ballpark, a little two-seamer runs right back into the middle of the plate, and Jonathan's waiting.
Castillo swings through it, 0-2. Jonathan Scope, who leads the Orioles in RBIs, now has 42. He is the only Oriole in the 40s in runs driven in. Just outside. Now, Tomlin's allowed 13 home runs, including the 2 tonight, and 8 of those, Jim, have come in the first 2 innings of starts. So another pitcher who has difficulty, it seems, settling in. That ball's ripped, and a nice play by Ramirez. He goes down to get it, and he gets Castillo.
Yeah, I don't know, because Jackson's playing over there. That would have been a double, but it's certainly a single. And he came up as a shortstop, because Kipnis is over at second. He could be playing there. He got Lindor, #1 draft choice. I mean this ball's ripped, and he makes it look easy. And he's got some arm strength too.
100 miles an hour off the bat.
Yep.
So 2 down as Ramirez robs Castillo, and here's Kim. Kim takes a strike.
Yeah, he doesn't. Well, he's thrown let's see, he came in, he's thrown 102 changeups. He got Seth Smith, primarily fastball cutter. And that's up in the 500 range, almost 600 pitches. So only 102, maybe out of 800 or 900 pitches this year for Tomlin. The changeup, but tonight looks like he's going to use it to slow down the bat. Because if you look at last night, again, Corey Kluber pitching really well. Kim hit 2 balls, 1 for a base hit and 1 a line drive to center field. Not a lot of balls hit hard, but he can center some pitches. And there's a cutter. Just anything other than your fastball. He's shaking his head. He said, that's not the way I usually hit.
Well, the thing about Tomlin, because he walks so few people, the hitters get good looks because he's usually around the plate, and there's a strikeout to end the inning. So a strikeout to end each the first and the second, but the Orioles with a pair of solo home runs, Jonathan Scope a laser beam shot, and we are tied at 2. Day uniforms. Go online now, Orioles.com/auctions, and you can bid on the autographed and authenticated game-worn jerseys and caps. All the proceeds will benefit the Orioles Charitable Foundation. Bidding closes Saturday at 10 p.m. And they were good-looking uniforms. Well, the best of friends each has homered in this game, each hitting number 14. So the Orioles fell behind 2-0 on the Encarnacion blast and a couple of solos, and were even. So Tillman got the shutdown inning in the second after the Orioles scored, looking for another shutdown inning here. And it bounces in there, so Jason Kipnis takes ball one. Jose Ramirez and Encarnacion will follow. Kipnis popped up to Machado and foul ground, his first at bat. And then he pops this one up. Shallow right center, an easy play for Jones. And one down.
Yes, yeah, go ahead, Jim. No, well, since May 10th, and you could talk about it, and we know this has been a struggle if you've been following Oriole baseball. So, again, you know, there's 30 teams, last in ERA, 29th in inning pitched, whip, that's walks and hits per innings, last, home runs, last, and then the batting average on balls in play, and that also is last. That's a long stretch.
Sure is. I mean, you think about where they were and where they are. They won the first two games in that Red Sox series as Ramirez takes the ball, and they were in sole possession of second place, 2.5 games back of the Yankees. And they go 5-11 since then, and they're in a tie for fourth place, last in the division, if you will, with the Blue Jays, and they're only 5 games out because the Yankees have lost 6 in a row. So the division is tight, and the Orioles fortunate that as they're slumping, some of the other teams in the division also slumping.
But in that same interim, you've had a 7-game losing streak and a 6-game losing streak, and good pitching doesn't allow that to happen.
That's bounced to Mancini. Trey will race to the base, gets there just ahead of the hustling Ramirez.
And all you have to do is look at the Indians. And, you know, the Indians won 14 in a row last year, you know, going from the middle of June all the way till the beginning of July. Take a look right here. Good curveball here. So, you know, trying to integrate all his pitches. And Trey realizes that Ramirez, of course, he's been so hot. He figures maybe I'll even beat this out, and it just barely gets there.
And if I'm Ramirez, I don't want to run into Trey.
No. Well, you don't want to run into anybody or get run over. So he gets it right in front of him. But the point is, Cleveland, you got to go all the way back to 2015, the last time they lost more than 3 games, because they have steady starting pitching. And this year, of course, they have the best bullpen of the American League. So Orioles need to get back to there. I still think if you know, Gausman, if Kevin Gausman is as bad as he's pitched, then you've really got a problem. I don't think he thinks that, so he's trying to right the ship. Miley's made some strides. Hopefully Chris Tillman will be able to make some strides. Ubaldo's coming off a good game, so you kind of get back into a mode where you go out there and you know that, you know what, if you get 5 starters, you're going to probably get 3 to 5 quality games, and then you get your bullpen guys back and you do what they did the first half of last year, which was pitch well and hit well, and then all of a sudden the second half of this year you play better than you have now. So now maybe that's a stretch.
And to Machado. So Tillman, a 3-up 3-down inning, his first of the night. 9 pitches to get 3 outs. Mid-third at Camden Yards, 2-2 game. pitch for Aberdeen against Hudson Valley. Tonight was the Ironbirds' season debut. 1 inning, he faced 3 batters. No hits, no runs. He had a strikeout, he had a walk, 12 pitches, 6 strikes. And Steve Molesky, covering for MatsonSports.com, talked to Zach. Said he had really good movement, which was kind of the issue I was fighting with the injury, and that was real positive. So Zach Britton on the way back as he made the start for Aberdeen. And Zach made the comment last night when he was rained out that now that he made that start, he has been an opening day starter for every affiliate, including the Orioles, in the Orioles system. He was on Aberdeen in 2007, but he did not start the first game, so now he has done that. Tejada pops it up to right, and that's an easy play for the right fielder Chisenhall. 1 down.
Yeah, he's trying to get back into a rhythm. Curveball and fastball in the middle of the plate. Those are the 2 runs on solo home runs. Machado, Scope. Well, you know he's going to be around the plate. You know he's not going to throw it by you. He's going to, again, it's movement. Trying to change speeds, get you out in front, disrupt your timing. That's what he did to Seth Smith the first time with the changeup. Got him to roll over. They put the shift on.
And there's a strike at the knee. StatCast powered by AWS. So there you see the fielders. Ramirez stays on the left side. Lindor, the shortstop, moves over. Kipnis in shallow right, and Santana deep at first. Ball and a strike. I mean, Tomlin, you look at his numbers, and at first you think it's a mistake. 6 walks all year. That is 0.76. So 3/4 of a walk he's averaging per 9 innings. That is amazing. But the other result of that is he's around the plate a lot. The hitters get good looks. So he's allowing about 12 base hits per 9 innings. Mickey Callaway is pitching coach.
So that's like 9 or 10 hits and 3 walks. So that'll play as long as you keep the ball in the ballpark and don't throw any multi-run home runs. I mean, the ball's more lively. They're not going to admit it. Maybe I won't even say that the ball's more lively the rest of the year, which I doubt. But so if you're going to throw home runs, do what he did.
Solos.
Well, you don't want to do them, but usually don't get beat on solo home runs.
Well, you have people. Can't you get like a scientific survey going? Bounce foul past Wayne Kirby. 3-2 the count on Seth Smith.
Yeah, so again, do your situation. That runner in scoring position number, that'll get your earned run average up. So it runners on, and that'll advance runners, and that kind of helps it. And so he's not having the same year that he had when he won 13 games last year yet. And of course, the Indians haven't until lately been playing as well as they can.
Chopper to first, easy play for Santana. He'll step on the bag for the second out.
Yeah, there's that little cut fastball, the one that they came hitting 330. So, Seth Smith has been hitting the ball well, and all of a sudden a change up for an out and then a cutter. 2 ground balls.
So Manny homered in the first. We'll get a look at it on StatCast.
Yeah, take a look. The curveball hit high, and again 32 degrees, 102 miles per hour, 383.
And Machado batting with 2 outs and the base is empty. And he'll take a strike. Those are 2-2 on the homestand. They've lost 9 of 12. And they are 7-11 in the month of June. Grounded towards the hole. Lindor from the grass throws across, not in time. Manny legs it out. What an effort by Francisco Lindor.
Barely legs it out. And Ramirez, trying to get, what quickness. And the turf here, this was maybe artificial turf. Might have been a little bit closer, but running hard because he sniffs the base hit. And tell him Carlos Santana.
You can't get me with my speed.
Well, 2-out hits. They get the power guy. Not that Manny can't hit home runs because he already has, but there's a little extra. It's not like it's an extra out because they didn't give you anything, but you beat it out. Now Adam Jones gets the hit. Wow.
So most runs scored with 2 outs. Orioles are 3rd in the American League, 142. Adam with a chance here. Tampa Bay 145, and the Astros leading with 154. So 142 of their 313 runs coming in. They've added 2 more runs here tonight. That's amazing. That's 45% of their run production with 2 outs. So 0-1 on Jones with Machado at first. Swings through a fastball 0-2.
There you see it. It's 88. You think you can hit it. Not that one. And now you got to go into the it's really, I mean, it's not a defensive mode. It's just a 2-strike approach. And we've seen Adam. He did it in Chicago. He smoked balls to right field all day long. And what does he do? He tries to do exactly what he did to Mark Trumbo. Throw that cutter so you give up, and he throws it at your front hip. You think it's going to be inside, and then it just cuts back a little bit.
Well, you see Adam does hit the ball around. 20 base hits to right field. He is a very good opposite field swing. In fact, quite often, as we've seen over the years, if he's slumping, he'll try to go to right field to snap out of it. So 0-2, the count holds. Fights it off and fouls it back. Joshua Aubrey Tomlin, out of White House, Texas. A career Cleveland Indian. He pitches on a team that has the 3rd best ERA in the American League, and last night Kluber pitched the Indians' 8th shutout of the year, which is the most in baseball. Swept towards third. Ramirez plays the hop and throws out Jones. That will end the inning. So 2-out base hit, a man left. We are through 3. Machado and the Birds tied with Cleveland. Ball on Masson is brought to you by PNC Bank, for the achiever in you, and by University of Maryland, University College. What a gorgeous sunset. So one of those Chamber of Commerce days. Pleasant temperatures, plenty of sunshine, and low humidity.
Cool early this morning.
Date night at the yard.
Exactly what he was saying to her. Honey, don't you think this was a Chamber of Commerce day so far?
You know, I overheard on Masson that it may have been a Chamber of Commerce day.
Oh, really?
Well, I just said it.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. Not ready for your humor yet. But we have, what, 6 more innings?
Yep. So buckle up. Chisenhall, Santana, and Gomes. Tillman's retired 5 in a row. And he's retired 7 of the last 8. And there's another base hit the opposite way. Wow, the Indians just peppered the opposite field. And Chisenhall is on with a 1-out single, or leadoff single. On Friday, join the O's Zone Rally team presented by Budweiser from 6 until 8 at Nick's Fish House in Baltimore. It'll feature former Orioles Larry Bigby and the Oriole Bird. For a complete schedule and rally info, visit Orioles.com/rallies. Beautiful night to watch a game. Here's Santana, who flied out his first at bat. It seems like Santana should be older than 31. He's been around for a long time. It's his 8th season with the Indians. Out of the Dominican Republic. He was originally signed by the Dodgers. And then he was sent as a minor league player back in 2008 to the Indians in exchange for Casey Blake. The Dodgers needed a third baseman for a playoff push, and they sacrificed Santana in that deal. So another one of those deals, Jim, that at the time you may not know who the minor leaguer is. I mean, he was an A-ball with the Dodgers when that trade was made.
But at that point he was a switch hitting catcher with power, so you kind of like that aspect. So he doesn't catch anymore, so he's a switch hitting first baseman with power, coming off really arguably his best year. Highest batting average, 259, and again the 34 home runs, 87 RBIs, 99 walks, and 99 strikeouts. And that's the first time in 4 years he didn't strike out 100 times.
Tillman falls behind him, 2-1. Santana's tied for 4th in the league in drawing walks. And here he is, a base hit up the middle. Here's our PNC minor league report. PNC for the achiever in you.
Yeah, Chance Sisco, who I think impressed a lot of people in spring training, is catching abilities, and that's what you need to do in this organization, getting a lot better. So June, that's been a nice month. He's not going to hit a lot of home runs. The home runs are special. How do you call a game? And it's probably been tough with the way the pitching staffs have pitched down there. But it looked like he's going to be a pretty good hitter. Again, line drive hitter. What have they done this inning? They did 2 line drives. Tillman's got 2 balls in the middle of the plate, and they decided, you know what, we won't overswing. We'll hit 1 to left, 1 up the middle.
Here's Yan Gomes. Ground ball to Manny. He'll go to second out there. Back to third, and the tag for a double play. Wow.
Well, it's not exactly the conventional way. I think he thought he could tag him and get the force at first. But that wouldn't have been very good, because then you don't get the lead runner. So it works out well. So right here. So there's your lead runner, at least one of them. And then Chisenhall, I mean, you can't go back to second.
And what an alert play by Ruben Tejada to get behind Machado and cover third base.
Yeah, you can't anticipate that, because you thought it would have been 5 to 4 to 3. And, it'd be a runner in third and 2 outs.
Well, Manny thought he had a chance to tag Chisenhall. And then when Chisenhall stopped, he figured, I better fire the scope and get an out.
Well, Chisenhall did exactly what you want to do. Which is basically, again, if he's going to tag you, so right here he probably sees that, so he puts the brakes on. So now you get a little bit fortunate. So you get one of the lead runners, and then you get him. So you get both of them. If he had done it conventionally, you would not have gotten the runner at third. Chisenhall would have been at third with 2 outs.
Bradley Zimmer fouls it off, 0-2.
Yeah, Chris Tillman cannot get a ball in on a left-handed hitter. Keep putting the glove up and in, and he keeps throwing it out over the plate. But a chance to get out of this inning.
Yeah, Chisenhall looks frustrated, but there really was nothing he could do about that. So Gomes ends up at first base with 2 down. So that's your very unconventional 5-4-6 double play.
Worked out well.
And again, Tejada very, very alert. As soon as Manny went towards second base, he broke and got to third to cover up. His reputation as a fielder is very, very good. And the 1-2 gets away from Castillo.
Yeah, trying to strike him out with a curveball. Still hasn't gotten the feel of it. Here it is. I mean, even the 16-year win years, he throws it over about maybe 47% of the time. It's kind of a field pitch. And Zimmer, the first time taking a fastball up and away. I mean, it looked like he'd done it all his life. Not only hit it to left, hit it hard for a double.
A 2-2 on Zimmer. Check swing and appeal to third. He didn't go. Bill Miller said he checked.
Yeah, fastball that kind of cuts in. It's not a slider because it was too hard. And
yeah, he
again,
checked.
Oh, very much so.
Zimmer was the 21st overall pick in the 2014 draft. He's from La Jolla, California, outside of San Diego, but he went to the University of San Francisco to play baseball. And the 3-2 is low, and there's a 2-out walk. Third walk allowed by Tillman.
Yeah, pretty nice at bat for a rookie. He couldn't get him to chase. He's a big kid.
Well, they knew he was going to be a player by the number they gave him, number 4. You get a single-digit number, they know you're going to stick. I remember when Jonathan Scope was his September call-up, and he joined the team in Toronto, and he came out on the field to stretch, and I saw he was wearing number 6, and I thought to myself, this kid's going to be a keeper. They gave him number 6, and sure enough, he is.
It was Paul Blair's number when we were teammates.
And a base hit in the right field. Smith on it quickly. Coming to the plate is Gomes. The ball will be cut off by Mancini. And a big 2-out base hit by Austin Jackson. And the Indians have the lead back at 3-2.
Yeah, so 1 for 19, and all of a sudden he gets 2 hits with runners in scoring position last night, and then 1 here. Nice approach right there. That's a fastball to hit pretty much down the middle, so he's able to get to it. Wasn't on the corner. And then you think that maybe you're going to have a chance, because again, Smith, you can see him right here. He charges quickly, hits the cutoff man right there, and they do a nice job of base running, not only getting the initial lead, going on contact, but no chance to throw him out. And then Zimmer just speeds into third. You figure, well, maybe he had a chance to get him over there.
So the Indians get a 2-out run. That is the 3rd hit in this inning, plus a walk. And it turns the lineup over for Lindor, who takes ball 1. Lindor singled the opposite way in the first inning, then bounced out in the second. Four of the Indians' 6 hits are opposite field base hits. Breaking ball stays outside. Of course, for Tillman this year, this has been a struggle. He's allowing 19.2 base runners per 9 innings. That is well up there. He doesn't have enough innings to qualify for the league leaders. If he did, that would be number 1. That would be the most. Here's a strike in the inside corner.
Yeah, there is. Did get a fastball into Zimmer. That's the second one he's been able to get to the glove side. Arm side is outside the lefties. Well, he's always since 2012. The one thing the Orioles have done for him is score runs. You know, they almost got him 6 runs a game, and he went 9-3. The next year they got him 5.28. He won 13. 2014, over 5 runs a game again.
Well, the sun's setting and reflecting off the warehouse. Greg Gentry joined the team today. David Washington sent back to AAA.
A late arrival is Dave Washington. I mean, he was out there taking infield and taking all kinds of ground balls, working on his moves.
First and third, 2 down, and 3-1 on Lindor. Foul tip.
Well, this is why he's struggling. You talked about those numbers, you know, coming in 13 for 59. Had a great April, well over 300 with the 7 home runs. He drove in 17 runs in the month of April, now chasing, which helps Chris Tillman, gets him back into the count.
Well, 3-2 with 2 down. And he fouled it back. Well, the sun reflecting off of the warehouse as we're about to turn the page into summer, which would be the first day of summer. It's the longest day of the year daylight wise. And here we are, what, past 8:20 at night. Look, still plenty of daylight. The lights have been on the entire game. They still haven't taken full effect.
Well, that's why one of the keys to pitching in the Northeast is to throw a lot of strikes until the lights do take effect. It could be into the 5th inning, 5th, 6th innings, if you throw a lot of strikes, and Chris Tillman hasn't been able to do that.
Jackson will run from first, and the 3-2 is fouled off, so another extended at bat.
Well, he's walked him 3 times, and he keeps chasing, so maybe he will eventually hit one of these pitches that are outside the zone. And Lindor wants that batting average to come up from 250. He better just go down to first base and let Kipnis hit. Yeah, Rick Manning, who played for him, does their television. He said, "What do you see?" And I said, "I see a guy swinging at balls." Now 3-2, you can't, you got to throw it close enough, but he's helping pitchers out.
And this ball's ripped to the gap in right center field. 2 runs are going to score. Austin Jackson can fly. Here's Zimmer to score. Jackson behind him. It's a 2-run double for Lindor, and it's a 5-2 Indians lead.
So I guess he's happy he didn't take the walk, because he finally gets one down the middle of the plate. And take a look right here, outside middle. And again, 2-seamer. Again, doesn't have a lot of velocity or movement, and he just goes out and covers it, pulls it. Nobody playing there.
So Alec Asher will get up and get on that bullpen mound to loosen up. So the Orioles streak by their pitchers continues. 17 consecutive games now, allowing 5 or more runs. That ties the 1901 Philadelphia Athletics for the 2nd longest streak in big league history. The record is held by the 1924 Phillies. They had 20 consecutive games that season, allowing 5 or more runs. Orioles are now at 17 in a row. So here's Jason Kipnis. All 3 runs driven in with 2 men down. And another runner with speed and scoring position at second base in Lindor. Lindor now with 30 RBIs. He has 2 hits tonight. The double here in the fourth, his 34th extra base hit. Now back, so ball and a strike on Kipnis. So another tough start by an Orioles starter and another tough one for Tillman.
Well, they got 12 runs last night, and they got 17 hits, but 10 of them were extra base hits. And came in with a 5-game losing or winning streak, made it to 6. They were averaging over 8 runs a game, and that went up with the 12. And again, it's just Chris Tillman cannot make the quality of pitches we're used to make him see in a, not in 2017, but in years past, for whatever the reason is.
The 2 balls and a strike on Kipnis, who is the 7th Indian to bat in this inning, and he pops it up. Castillo hoping for a play near the on-deck circle, and he's got it for the out, and he holds on the rail by the camera well. Nicely done by Wellington. He goes back to get it to end the Cleveland fourth. So a 5-2 game as the O's come up in the fourth. Orioles do have the 2 home runs, but as Jim pointed out, solos usually don't beat you. So Tomlin now has a 3-run lead. Trumbo, Mancini, and Scope this inning. And quickly, no balls and 2 strikes. Tomlin has struck out 2. He has not walked a batter, which is not a news flash for him.
Yeah, and that's why the pitch count is low. I mean, 11 balls, 33 strikes. That's a very high ratio. And a couple balls in the middle of the plate, they've hit out of the ballpark.
Center field, Zimmer back. The ball carries to the warning track, and he runs it down right in front of the Orioles bullpen.
Yeah, new ballpark for him, being a rookie. And again, that ball's almost over Trumbo's head. Of course, he hit a home run that way early, and then you notice last night he plays pretty deep, so he makes that play, a little face plant here, just making sure he catches it, and then boom. Yeah, that'll give you a standing ovation from your pitcher.
So Zimmer runs it down. Trumbo denied, and here's Mancini. Well, Mancini is the 14th batter that Tomlin is facing here in this game. Trey flied out to shallow center his first at bat. He has thrown strike one to 12 of the 14.
Well, it's supposed to be, and most pitching coaches, strike one, important account. You know, another real important. What do you do 1-1? You go to 2-1 or 1-2. You get the first out of the game or of the inning.
Ground ball that hits the base. It's a base hit down the line. So Mancini on with a 1-out single.
Well, he hits it where it's pitched. That's been well documented. And Chisenhall, I mean, he plays him down the line. They shipped him around, and you could see right there, you know, a little cutter fastball away. I don't know if it would have been a double, but it might have been. The minute it hits the bat, Lonnie Chisenhall gets to it quickly.
So the Orioles trying to answer here in their half of the fourth. Jonathan Schoop homered his first at bat. Schoop, Machado, and Chris Davis now all tied for the Orioles home run lead with 14 each. The Orioles have 6 players with at least 10 home runs.
And Jonathan takes a long look at that outside corner. Might have thought it was a little bit off the plate.
And Mancini on with 1 down. And fast, the 4th inning of Orioles baseball is brought to you by the all-wheel drive RAV4. Toyota, what drives you? Visit buyatoyota.com for great deals.
Yeah, that sky looks like coming out of Arizona highways.
Sharply hit foul. 0-2 on Schoop. There's some cloud cover right over the stadium, but the sun.
Oh, the reflection, the reflection on the sky.
Somewhere that way. West.
You mean the sun?
Go west, young man. 0-2 on Schoop. Mancini at first. Hanger tried to time it a little bit out in front.
Now take a look at our stat cast on this home run. Very much like Manny Machado's, maybe a little higher than the one he's hit on Saturday, 110 miles per hour. I mean, there have been ground balls. What, the one that Ramirez caught earlier in the game was 100 miles per hour. So that's why everybody's talking about it. Get the launch, hit more balls in the air. Get the launch angle up. Balls are being hit harder and going farther.
This ball's trouble if it stays fair. And that is a foul ball, just foul.
Yeah, probably if it goes fair, he's going to catch it. They play very shallow in right center field to the off field.
Chisenhall gave it every.
Well, he stops. I mean, he actually stopped to see if it was going to be fair or foul. I'm not saying he should have caught it or could have caught it, but he did slow down.
Schoop's home run in the 2nd inning. His 7th in the month of June. He now has 18 RBIs this month. He and Mancini have both had outstanding run production months.
Yeah, he's having an Edwin Encarnacion month, who has 7 home runs.
Count holding 0-2. And he got him with a high fastball. So Schoop down on strikes and 2 down.
Yeah, perfect pitching in the sense that you don't have to throw him a strike. He tried to do this to Adam Jones. He swung through a couple. But just go up the ladder, see if he'll chase, and he does. And again, because it's only 88, you think you can get to it. And it's 2 strikes. Don't want to. So he swings right through it and get a couple of outs.
So here's Castillo, who bounced out his first at bat, robbed of a base hit by Ramirez. His bounce out was 100 miles an hour off the bat. Castillo has 3 home runs and 7 RBIs since coming off the DL. This is his 11th game. Trying to get to Tomlin here. And a little bit low.
Well, they're the whip, and that's walks and hits per inning. The Astros, they lead the parade. The Yankees are second, and then the Indians. And then the Red Sox down the list. And then the Orioles last. Well,
Gausman's is very high, and Chris Tillman's is very high. So when you have 2 starters, allowing a lot of base runs.
And Ubaldo's until Sunday was high. And then the other fact, well, Miley doesn't give up a lot of hits, but he gives up a lot of walks. So here's Josh Tomlin in the hitter's count, and as Buck Showalter will say, and somebody that's a finesse right-hander, you have no idea what he's going to throw.
The Orioles have 4 hits, the 2 solo home runs, and a couple of singles.
Cutter. You know, tonight, I mean, came in as a .330 batting average on the cut fastball, and he throws a lot of them. He's thrown almost 300 pitches, and now he's over 300 with cutters on overall his starts. Tonight, it's pretty crisp. He has yet to throw one in the middle of the plate, and that gets him right back into the count.
Castillo tonight is facing Tomlin for the first time. And he got him. Back-to-back strikeouts end the inning. So the 1-out single by Mancini, 1 left. We'll head to the 5th. Cleveland has the lead. Offering you 20 convenient locations throughout the Baltimore area. Visit us in store or online at heritagedealers.com. Well, 2 more games with Cleveland. Night games tomorrow and Thursday. That closes out the homestand. Then the Orioles head out for a week. 3 games in Tampa beginning on Friday night. Then a late afternoon game on Saturday and a day game on Sunday. The O's then will head to Toronto, a day off there Monday, and then 3 straight games against the Blue Jays before heading back home. Beautiful, beautiful sunset. It almost looks like a painting.
Well, that's, you know, when I born in New York but raised in, went to high school in Arizona. Arizona highways, you went to you know, got your hair cut, whatever. One of the great magazines. Great Christmas gift. Beautiful, you know, New Mexico sunsets. Great scenic pictures. Maybe $14 for 12 editions back then. Yeah, people love it. Gives you an idea of what the Southwest is like. It looks like that. Well, that's the sunsets and all that is good, but Yeah, I was thinking today because somebody said it was 120 or 122 in Phoenix. It's kind of hot.
It's a dry heat.
What is a dry heat, but not as dry as it used to be because of all the swimming pools. About as hot as this Cleveland team trying to win their 7th in a row.
They are 5-0.
Well, they won, like we mentioned, they won 14 in a row last year. So they know it can be done. And how do you do it? You hit, you pitch well.
Terry Francona has done a real good job in Cleveland. Brad Mills is longtime bench coach, first in Boston. He managed Houston very briefly and then rejoined Francona with the Indians.
Yeah, so, you know, every once in a while you'll see a fastball a little bit over 90, 92 right there. And it just looks like he gets his arm up, stays behind it, just cannot do that consistently. And then against these guys, that's not going to work. They are putting a clinic on if you make a mistake in the middle of the plate.
Upstairs, ball 3.
Yeah, Brad Mills, there was a great story in the Cleveland paper. He was very much like Dwayne Kuiper, who played for the Indians, hit 1 home run in his career. Brad Mills hit 1 home run in his career. And he did it when he pinch hit for Doug Flynn. And Doug Flynn didn't like to
foul ball.
He didn't like to get pinch hit for it. So he was not very happy. And actually wrote it down on my card yesterday. When he went up there, it was Billy DeMars was the hitting coach, and he was actually one of our coaches when I started up. He did Fox Cities, but it was August 10th of 1982, and so Doug wasn't very happy, and he hits the home run. He goes, well, at least if you're going to pitch hit for me, that's what you need to do. So, and Doug would go on to actually play for some of the Mets teams. Pretty good out of Kentucky. That was his 1 home run in his career.
Ramirez having a pesky at bat.
Well, they all have pesky at bats.
Indians are 6th in the league in team batting. Asher up for a 2nd time.
Yeah, it's tough to pitch when your command is all over the place and you can't strike people out. He had yet to strike anybody out. There's a changeup that's hung, so you know it's almost like, okay, you're happy that you slowed the bat down and didn't hit a home run, but I mean, this is a guy that about as hot as anybody in the American League, and he was the American League Player of the Week last week, and he's got a chance to do it again.
So here comes Buck Showalter, and it looks like that's going to be all for Chris Tillman. He has not yet made the signal. And there it goes. So we're going to get Alec Asher to come on here in the 5th. So another short start by an Orioles starter. Tillman goes 4 innings plus 1 batter, trails, losing.
Tillman trying to really break the 5-game losing skid that he's on, and again they rough him up. The big blow in first, the home run, and then Lindor's double in the 4th inning. So Alex Asher will come on. We last saw Alec on against the Cardinals on Saturday. He would come in, and he threw strikes. Now he threw about 100 and some pitches on Tuesday. They brought him back out of the bullpen, and then Ubaldo Jimenez took his place, and he struggled, and he made a good pitch. They got a base hit. He walked him, and then Dexter Fowler hit a home run. So he briefly gave up 3 hits and earned run and a home run. So, but he can pitch, and his numbers are better out of the bullpen. 2.16 ERA, and when he starts, a little bit higher. And he's got his work cut out because these guys are swinging the bat.
So Encarnacion with the man on, nobody down. Breaking balls low. Asher has never faced any of these Cleveland hitters.
So you have somewhat of a, I mean, they'll tell you what he throws. I mean, he throws fastball, cutter, has a curveball and changeup. They're kind of down the list. He likes the cutter. They'll tell him what the velocity is, 90 to 92. Maybe once in a while hit 93. He can pitch in, but when he does, he hits people. I mean, he's very aggressive inside the hitters. And there's more of a cutter slider.
Yeah, he has hit 7 batters in 46 in the 3rd innings. He lost his last 2 starts. He started the 2nd game last week in Chicago on Tuesday, lasted 5 innings. His prior start was the makeup game in Washington on June 8th. He lasted 4 innings in that game. Popped up a breaking ball a mile high near the dugout.
And Manny can't see it.
And he makes a basket catch.
For not being able to see it. He's got his hands up, and then all of a sudden it must have come out of it because there's a big dark cloud above us. So right here you can see, I don't see it, but at least now he sees it, and the wherewithal as everybody ducks. I mean, what's the dugout? They're going, I'm not going to, if he wants to come in there, they're getting out of the way. Trevor Bauer says, ooh.
Had it all the way. So that's a big out for Asher, getting Encarnacion. Lonnie Chisenhall now. Chisenhall has walked and he has singled. All 5 runs off Tillman were driven in with 2 outs. The 2-run home run by Encarnacion, 2 outs in the 1st. That came immediately after Lindor was picked off at second base by Castillo, and then in the 4th inning the RBI single by Jackson, followed by the 2-run double by Lindor. So all 3 RBI hits with 2 down in the inning. Alec Asher acquired right before the end of spring training. Barely had time to get to Sarasota, meet his new teammates, and then get used to the organization. He began the year in AAA, and he's been back and forth a couple of times.
There's a changeup, and that's a nice way to pitch. They weren't looking for it. It was a good one. He sold it well. Fastball count. And the reason that he is at least better for this club out of the bullpen is because of the fact he can pitch on a more regular basis. When Ubaldo Jimenez was down there, it was really at least four days between appearances. Almost like a starter.
That ball's hooked foul. And a lot of moving pieces on this team here. All the pitchers who have pitched both for the minor league teams and the major league team this year. Asher, Aquino, Blyer, Castro, who's here, Crichton, who's been here, Hart, who's back tonight, Jackson, who's been released, Nuno, who went back to AAA today, Logan Verrett and Wilson, they're at AAA, Mike Wright now on the DL, Jimmy Yacobonis back at AAA, and Inoa is still here. Shallow center field, Tejada back, and Jones makes the catch. Tejada did not get out of the way and then deferred at the last moment.
Well, Adams playing so much deeper this year. We look again right here. Here he comes. So Tejada's going. I mean, this is the way it works. I'm going to go get it, and then right there, I mean, he realizes that Adam calls him off and hopes he catches it. A long canter.
Wayne Kirby, the outfield coach, looking on. Bobby Dickerson, the infield coach.
A nice pitch by Alec Asher with a changeup.
Here's Carlos Santana, 1 out of 2. Strike on the corner. I don't think he agreed.
No, the ball was outside.
So for Alec Asher, it's his 17th game, 11th relief appearance to go with the 6 starts.
Yeah, I think for the first time, Carlos Santana is going to have a little competition on base on balls. Encarnacion came into the game with 2 more, 42 versus 40 already.
Ramirez at first with 2 down now.
There's the cutter. And he finally was able to get one in a good location. That's the pitch he started throwing in winter ball and used it in spring training when he tried to make the Philly club.
The ball and 2 strikes on Santana, 2 down, and Ramirez at first. And skies at the center field. This one a more easy play for Adam Jones, who will put it away. And in the answer, Asher comes on and gets 3 outs. He got some help from his defense. First, Manny Machado right near the dugout, and Adam Jones running it down to retire Chisenhall. Baseball on Masson is brought to you by American Standard Heating and Air. Go to MidAtlanticComfort.com for special offers and to find a dealer near you. And by visitannapolis.org. Create your moment at visitannapolis.org. Well, the Orioles come to bat in the 5th, trailing by 3.
$4,120 miles from Alaska. A long way. Ever been to Alaska, Jim?
No.
Lovely state.
Chris Tillman and Wellington Castillo talking it over. Tillman lasting 4 innings tonight, allowing 5 earned runs. Tomlin has allowed the 2 runs on the solo home runs by Machado and Scope. Total of 4 base hits. Has not walked a batter. Kim was called out on strikes his first at bat. One of 4 strikeouts for Tomlin. Kim slaps it the other way, but playing towards the line was Jackson. And he runs it down for the out. 1 down. So Kim is 0 for 2. Orioles fans, when the O's score 5 runs or more, you get 50% off regular menu price online orders at papajohns.com with the promo code Orioles5. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. Here's Ruben Tejada. He'll be getting a lot of starts at shortstop with J.J. Hardy out. Tejada now 0 for 8 on the homestand with this fly out in the 3rd.
Yeah, have you heard any word on Ryan Flaherty as far as his arm getting better? Is he throwing?
Buck said before the game he had a bit of a setback.
Yeah, that's an arm injury that bothered him at the beginning of spring training, and then got a cortisone shot, and then got another one. I think maybe a PRP injection.
This ball's lined to right center field. It's going to fall in there for a base hit. Perfectly placed.
Well, that's what you need to do. You need base runners. A little high curve ball that he fights off into short right center field. Dumped it in there. Jim Hunter words, doinked it. It was a doink. Good plays.
But the Orioles have Flaherty in Sarasota, so Dave Walker's there. They're trying to bring it along so he doesn't have a major setback. If it's just soreness, which it is at the moment. So here's Seth Smith. Orioles turn the lineup over. Tomlin has been a strike 1 machine here tonight. (16) of the 19 batters he has faced, he has been strike 1. Quick throw to first. Tejada back.
Yeah, ideally, and you want to get ahead so you can try to get the hitters to chase, expand the strike zone. Hard to do that when you're behind. No, he's got the capability, even if he does do that, to pitch backwards, so to speak, where he can throw breaking balls, cutters, and hitters counts, and we've seen him do that.
Upstairs, 1-1. Yeah, with Ryan Flaherty down in Florida after feeling some discomfort yesterday from the throwing the day before, today felt a little better, but it looks like that's going to be a slower process than Ryan certainly would have liked when he first went to Sarasota. A ball and a strike on Seth Smith, who was grounded out twice.
There's that wide plate again, and body language will tell you he thought that the ball was off the plate, and it was. Didn't matter though. Yep, only by outside. 2. Yeah, only by a couple of baseballs. A little bit over 2 inches wide. That makes a big difference because now you have to protect. And the other thing is do you really know what's going to be a strike and what's going to be a ball? No. So there's up and in at 87, and a lot of options. He's gotten them out with a changeup. He's gotten them out with a cutter. He can turn it over. He can try to backdoor it. I mean, that's what control pitchers can do.
A 2-2 with a runner at first. There's a base hit for Smith. He rips it up the middle.
And then he gets a cookie, a little cutter, one of the few that stayed right in the middle of the plate, and he doesn't miss it. Kind of like the swing he put on the home run off of Lance Lynn, except he elevated it and hit it over the center field fence to lead off the game on Sunday. So now all of a sudden you got your tie and run coming to the plate.
Yeah, for the first time tonight, the Orioles have a runner at second base, so they have a conference, I'm guessing, to know the signs. Interesting that the entire infield came in.
Well, they used to do that in the National League all the time. Really, I mean, I don't know if it was a National League thing or whatever, but yeah, the entire infield would come in. Not in my days. Probably because nobody wanted to talk to Earl, but yeah, it's just, again, you know, they're going to change the signs because with the runner on second, that happens. You don't want to have Tejada tell Manny what's coming or indicate what's coming. Not that he really needs a lot of help, but
strike out in the corner, 0-1.
Yeah, when Manny starts hitting better, and hopefully that, it seems like he's kind of morphing into that. He takes those pitches because he can't hit that pitch. It's a double play ball. It's not a ball he can drive. So he just kind of takes it and hopes to get a better pitch to hit. And of course, if you're Josh Tomlin, you want him swinging at that pitch because it's your pitch. And this one is one just in case I want to go back there. I mean, really not that far inside when you consider.
A ball and a strike, 2 on and 1 out. Tying run at the plate. And
oh,
that ball
wow.
is crushed. Back it goes. It is gone for Machado. And we are tied at 5. A 2-home run game for Manny.
Well, their starter ERA is as good as their bullpen is at 2.56 is 4.60, and you can see why. So cutter in the middle of the plate to Seth Smith for the single, and then another one. Second home run of the evening for Manny Machado.
It ties the game and gives our Maryland Lottery contestant of the game, James Gaver of Waynesboro, another $500.
And Mickey Callaway's going to come out and have a little conversation. So again, when you're hitting and you're more confident, you take the pitcher's pitches, then you get these. And off the bat, it's just a matter of how far it's going. I mean, this ball in a hurry.
So Machado, 2 home runs tonight. He now has the team lead with 15. And it's his first multi-home run game of the year.
Yeah, Nick Goody got him from the Yankees. He's up and throwing. getting loose.
So 3 straight hits, and we are back even at 5. Adam Jones swings through it, 0-1. Well, the batting average against Tomlin with runners in scoring position was .424, and that will now go up. So Machado has 2 home runs, a 4 RBI game, and Scope has a solo home run.
Well, you take balls, you get strikes to hit, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, that was a pitcher's pitch, and 2 weeks ago he would have flailed at it, maybe put it in play, just took it, got a better pitch to hit, and the Orioles tied the game up. You know, Jonesy started this at bat as swinging at ball 1. This guy cannot pitch in the middle of the plate. His stuff's not good enough. So that's why, if he throws you a good pitch, you know, on the first pitch, you can hit it, but don't be chasing. And now, of course, he's, you know, once you've thrown a 3-run home run, we talked about throwing 3 home runs tonight, 2 solos and a 3-run shot. But that's the one you don't want to throw, the multi-run home run. There's 2 home runs right there. Actually, 3 home runs by Manny and Scope.
Deflected off Tomlin. Adam is hustling the first, and he's there in time. That's an infield hit. Nice job by Ramirez. He made it close.
Well, if he lets it go because it's a cutter that he hits off the end of the bat, it's probably a routine ground ball. Lindor probably catches this. Not hit hard. You know, maybe even the second baseman. You know, Kipnis might have been able to catch it. And now all of a sudden, tried to get the glove on it. Yeah, couldn't backhand it. So now you're 1 swing away from trailing 7-5. Trumbo almost hit a home run the last time up, deep center field.
Still only 1 down in the inning. Strike on the corner, 0-1. Mark called out on strikes in the first that flied out to the wall just in front of the Orioles bullpen in the 4th. Well, Trumbo has gone deep against Tomlin. Last July, he got into one right here at Camden Yards. July 23rd of last year on a Saturday night.
Yeah, he got in a lot of them last year, hitting 47 to lead the major leagues.
Nice play by Santana. That throw sailed.
Well, he threw over earlier with Trey Mancini on. He doesn't run. I think sometimes you just kind of do it because you think it's the right thing. Orioles, they're actually stealing more bases this year than last, but they are 15th in the American League in stolen bases there.
The Indians do a real good job controlling the running game. They are catching 43% of the potential base stealers. With Tomlin on the mound, there has been 1 stolen base and 1 caught stealing, so teams usually don't run against him.
Well, look how he loads on his back leg. I mean, he's already preset where all he does is slide step. I mean, look, he sets right into that back leg and very quick to the plate.
Check swing, and it's outside, ball 3.
And there's another pitcher's pitch that Mark Trumbo, who you know wants to do some damage, takes. Well, that makes a big difference. How do you pitch to Trumbo? Well, don't have to throw him a strike. How do you pitch to Machado? Well, yeah, don't have to get it over. That's you can change by just being a little bit more patient. I mean, you still want to know what you want to hit, and Mark's got a pretty good idea. And he got it right there and swung through it. Cutter. He just missed.
So Tomlin has now allowed 14 home runs on the year with his 3 tonight. And this is 14th start. Trumbo homered on Sunday against Lance Lynn. And a fly ball that just kept on going. Fouls back to 3-2 pitch. And Adam was not running on the pitch.
Yeah, I think if you keep the stopwatch, you know how quick Tomlin is to the plane. You know Gomes throws pretty well. When you got Mancini on deck, you don't want to run yourself out of the inning here in the fifth. I think again against their bullpen, you want to get runs in the middle of the game before you get to the back end because they got a pretty special bullpen.
Bounce foul on the 7th pitch of the at bat.
And running there.
Mancini on deck. Fans making noise trying to bother Tomlin. Time requested at the plate. This is Tomlin's 4th start at Camden Yards. He has a winning record, 2-1. Even though his ERA here at Oriole Park is 7.41. And he gets Trumbo. That's a big out for Tomlin. 2 down.
Yeah, got him to chase. Had one pitch to hit, didn't hit it, and then this is what he does. Little cut fastball. You think it's going to stay on the corner, and then it just swerves away.
So that'll be it for Tomlin. Here's Terry Francona. And we'll get Nick Goody coming on here in the 5th.
Record, not going to win. Could have a chance, I suppose, to lose with Adam Jones on first base. So again, the 3 home runs, the coup de grace, so to speak, the 3-run home run by Manny Machado, his 2nd. So he'll leave. Nick Goody comes on. They got him from the Yankees, and he's been terrific, and especially at home. He's 15 2/3, yet to give up a run. Low batting averages, fly ball pitcher. We'll see how that plays in this park. And then on the road, 11 2/3 innings, 4 runs. So, righties are only hitting 176, lefties at 160.
I think 68% of the inherited runners.
Yeah, it means basically a 2-pitch pitcher. Fastball around 92, slider. But this year, somehow, coming over, he's gotten a lot better. And an important part of the best bullpen in the American League so far.
So here's Mancini. Ball 1 outside. Here's a look at our league leaders.
Yep. Well, again, I mean, ERA the lowest, strikeouts 4th. 7th in saves, and that's probably because they have 8 shutouts and whatever. Opponent average 4th. So
the Coons League leaders, brought to you by Coons.com. When you're talking cars, you're talking Coons.
Yeah, Boone Logan, veteran lefty, comes over. Well, they have added some pieces this year.
Mancini singled off the first base bag his last at bat. A ground ball to Cute, and it deflected off the base in the shallow right field. On the count to 3-0.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'll be swinging with Scope on deck. I think you'll take your chances. Mancini, I mean, yeah, it's just amazing the kind of year he's having. And so you pay attention. If you're a team, you come in. We already seen him hit that ball right off the first base bag. And that was just trying to time that fastball at 92. Now, you talk to a lot of hitters, and remember when David Segui was here, he'd always be hurt and whatever, but he'd always come back and hit line drives. I said, how do you do it? He said, I go down and track pitches. So 3-0, you can actually track the pitch coming in, even though you're not going to swing. Now, that's perfect fastball, low and away. That's what Terry Crowley did. Yeah, I wanted somebody to stand there, so Crow would come down and wanted to see live pitching. You know, you get a left-handed hitter like Terry, or a right-hander up there when you're doing your sides. Try to simulate what you're trying to do when you pitch, and it helps hitters too. When they come down, it kind of slows the ball down a little bit when you see a lot of, game type pitches instead of batting practice. And this is what happens. Young hitter, you figure you're going to get him to chase slider. You want to throw it down and away, which he does, but because he hits the ball to right field, he can wait a little bit longer. He takes the walk.
And it pushes the go-ahead run into scoring position. Adam the second, Mancini at first with 2 down.
Yeah, and they play very shallow in this outfield. I mean, again, as we mentioned, Jackson, the left fielder, is a center fielder. I mean, Zimmer is going to find out in this ballpark, even though he can run and he's a big kid, you can run out of room in a hurry if somebody hits one. I mean, very shallow in center. Well, there's the perfect slider.
Jonathan 1 out of 2. He homered in the second at the time, tying the game at 2. He has seen Goody 3 times while Goody was with the Yankees, and he's 0 for 3 against him. Cleveland got 3 in the 4th to take the lead. Orioles get 3 back here on the Machado home run to tie it. Goody has allowed 3 home runs on the year. He began the year at AAA Columbus, but was there only for about 10 days and then was called up.
Well, take a look, and again, we always talk about these numbers, Jim. You talk about usually that 3 or fewer, it's hard to win. 4 or fewer runs. Usually the magic number was 4 or more, but 4 or fewer runs this year for the Orioles, 11 and 29, and then when they get 5 runs, things improve, which is what they're able to, at least tonight so far, score.
Goody's ahead of Scope 1 and 2. 2 on and 2 down. Chop foul.
Yeah, that's a hittable slider because it starts kind of at him and ends up in the middle of the plate. Not the low and away version we saw last night countless times from Corey Kluber.
Well, the Orioles came in with 99 home runs, so they now have 102. It is their 29th multi-home run game as a team this year. Machado has 2 of them. Outside, good take, 2-2. Goody went to high school in Orlando, Florida. He's a native of Orlando and another of the pitchers who have come through that LSU program. Well, he was a teammate of Kevin Gausman. They were both drafted the same year, 2012. Check swinging, it's low, ball 3.
Yeah, that fastball was to try to get him to chase that pitch. But pitchers in the American League are learning that Jonathan Schoch, if you make a hanger, you throw a hanging breaking ball. One of the pretty tougher outs in this team.
And this will give the Orioles an advantage, 3-2 with 2 down. The runners will be off with the pitch. So Schoch can find a gap. Mancini should be able to score from first base. Jones from second, Mancini from first with 2 down and a 3-2 count. This will be the 7th pitch in this at bat. Tapper passed him out. Kipnis charges, and he'll get it to first. So Goody does a good job to get out of it, but the Orioles get even on the Machado 3-run homer.
It's a lot of offense and some pretty good defense right here. High clouds early on, doesn't see it. Oh yes, he does. Really nice play by the former Platinum Glover. And then Ruben Tejada is going to take the pop up, but here comes Adam Jones at the last minute. And then right here, Manny Machado will hit 2 home runs tonight. The one that ties at a 3-run shot off of Josh Tomlin. And of course, Schoch with a home run, Manny with another home run, 5-5. As we go to the 6th, Geico 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com to see how much you could save.
Well, Machado and Jones. Manny's got a perfect night going, 3 for 3. Adam is 1 out of 3. So Alec Asher came on in relief at Tillman with a runner on and nobody down in the 5th, got 3 straight out. So it's his job now to keep it as is. Strike 1 to the leadoff hitter Yan Gomes. Zimmer on deck, and then Jackson, lower third of the Indians lineup. Gomes has pop fouled to Mancini at first and hit into a very unusual double play. He was up in the 4th inning, first and second, nobody down, hit a ground ball to Manny. Chisenhall was the runner at second. He was running towards third, then stopped, so Manny fired to second to force Santana. And then Schoch fired back to third base where the shortstop Tejada was covering to tag out Chisenhall. So the double play you rarely see, going 5-4-6 to get the 2 outs.
Yeah, a couple of singles up the middle and the opposite field, and then Chris Tillman made a nice pitch to get the ground ball, and you thought it was going to be conventional, but either way they got 2 outs, and then Asher, you could see his stuff can be pretty good. The ball was 22 home runs hit over the weekend. The ball was flying, and they gave up that home run to Dexter Fowler. It looked like a fly ball to left, and it just sailed out of here.
Well, Buck Showalter, he uses a bullpen as well as any manager. He was commenting before the game about last night. Of course, the game got out of hand. Indians won at 12-0, but he said he held back Asher because he felt he might need him tonight, and if he did, this could be a winnable game. And sure enough, he brings him in. Orioles are trailing when he comes in, and then the home run ties it. Screen got in the way of Castillo. Look out, young lady.
Yeah, I think it hit this. It's hard to tell whether this ball hits the screen on the way down or not.
Looked like it hit the heel of the glove.
At least from that angle, after making a great play. So I guess it probably did for that frustrated look.
Wow, they've given him an error on that.
Well, it's a tough error, but it's catchable ball.
That one bounces. Yan Gomes, a real good pickup for the Blue Jays. Originally they drafted him, and then the Blue Jays traded him away to the Indians. And he's down on strikes and 1 away. So 4 in a row retired by Asher.
Yeah, nice little pitch right there. A little 90. I don't know if this is a cutter. Perfectly thrown. Starts on the corner, and then yep, he cut it. A little good arm speed, much better than the other day. And again, the illusion is it's going to be on the corner and doesn't end up there.
The one down here is the rookie Bradley Zimmer, who has been on base twice. He is a good-looking young player. Swings for a changeup, 0-1. Zimmer doubled in the second, walked and scored in the 3-run fourth. Back-to-back changeups, 1-1. Ground ball to Manny, who was towards the bag, throws high, but Mancini with a nice lunge, and he got his foot back down.
Yeah, you better not linger the way Zimmer runs. And Manny, there's always that little right there. I mean, you can see he's getting himself set. A lot of infielders do it different ways, and then big target over there. So right there, I mean, most guys would set their feet a little bit different, but that's not the way Manny plays third. A little crow hop on the run, but he kind of plays it on the run, which is why he was a very good shortstop, because you got to do that more often.
Ball 1 to Austin Jackson, the number 9 batter. He broke the 2-all tie with an RBI single in the 4th. Lindor then followed with a 2-run double. Alec Asher's out of Lakeland, Florida. He went to the same high school that Steve Pearce went to, Chris Sale went to. Pretty good high school.
Yeah, he might have a nice little baseball program there. Probably swinging away here.
Keon Broxton is on the Brewers. He also went to that high school.
Yeah, I keep watching highlights because the Orioles will be going to Milwaukee to play as Richard Blyer gets loose out in the Oriole bullpen. And Keon Broxton, like 9 or 10 home runs, but they're all like 450 feet.
2-out walk turns the lineup over as Austin Jackson heads down to first base with 2 down. Here's Roger McDowell out for a chat. Well, Chris and Jill Davis will host Crushes Homers for Hearts, benefiting the Pediatric Heart Program of the University of Maryland Children's Hospital. It'll be held on Thursday, July 13th, right here at Oriole Park. Now, attendees can watch a private Orioles team workout, then participate in a home run derby and more. And to learn more about the event, Orioles.com/homers for hearts. So the first base runner, Alec Asher, allows after retiring the first 5 hitters he faced.
Well, Jackson, when he first came up, Austin could really steal some bases. The last couple of years hasn't run as much. And that could be the fact. He's certainly not old at 30, so that might be okay. How are we going to pitch Lindor, who got a big double off of Chris Tillman and also started the game with a single and a curveball to left. And so again, maybe just a little an awareness meeting out on the mound.
Lindor has 2 hits in the game. Changeup outside, 1-0.
Yeah, the game that Alex Asher pitched in Chicago, if the Orioles had their normal bullpen, he would have pitched 5 innings, given up 1 run. But because of the fact they don't have a lot of depth in their bullpen, he tried to pitch the 6th, and that's where Matt Davison hit that grand slam home run on a 3-2 pitch. I'm trying to make excuses for him. It's just that, you got 5 innings of 1-run ball game, and the same thing applied on Thursday for Chris Tillman. He went into the 6th inning having not pitched into the 6th, and because of, again, the bullpen not having as many guys that are pitching well out there, were asked to get extra outs.
3-0. Well, you're without Britton, who would pitch the final inning, so that means Brad Brock is pushed to the 9th, which means Brock is not available for the 8th. Darren O'Day is also on the disabled list. He might be available for the 8th or the 7th, which means you might have Michael Givens for the 6th. So it's a domino.
Yep, it is.
A 4-pitch walk after Jackson walked. And here comes Buck with the lefty Kipnis coming up. We'll get Blyer. So a 5-5 game, back-to-back walks after 2 down. Asher will leave after an inning and 2/3. And Richard Blyer comes on in the 6th. Authority of the Orioles, it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Orioles. That youngster having fun. As I'm #1 finger, the foam finger. And here's Richard Blyer, who's been pitching very well on in the 6th.
Yeah, he pitched last night, but it was you know, an inning with a run, but an unearned run, and a 1 hit, but 24 pitches. So back-to-back nights for him. You can see actually Kipnis will come up as left-handed. He gets righties out better than lefties. But I don't think Buck Showalter is very happy about the back-to-back walks after 2 quick outs by Alec Asher. Seems like he lost his release point. So now it's up to Blyer in his tie game.
And he'll get ahead 0-1. Well, Blyer, that unearned run last night, snapped his scoreless streak. He had gone 11 consecutive without allowing a run, but he still now has gone 12 consecutive appearances without an earned run. So a 0 ERA in his last 12 appearances, covering 12 1/3 innings. Boone Logan still getting loose. And Miguel Castro now beginning to get loose. And it's interesting with Blyer, Jim, because it seems when he comes on there, base runners all over the place because he gives up a lot of hits, but yet he somehow finds a way to get out of a jam.
Well, he's now able to pitch out of the zone. And Kipnis, you know, it's a pretty good matchup because he's a better hitter. He's not hitting well as of yet. He usually hits better than what he came in at, what, 238, but he's only hitting 219 against lefties, and probably about 25 points higher against right-handers.
Weak ground ball to Scope. Jonathan will get it to first. Blyer does the job, and he gets Jason Kipnis. So the 2 walks, 2 left. Bottom of the 6th coming up. Birds come to bat in a 5-5 game.
For the 2 starters. So for Tillman, he's lost his last 5. Well, that's not going to continue, even though he didn't get a win tonight. Better command, no, because he knows he needs to do better than that. Certainly capable of that. And then we talked about in 2015 he went 0-5 in May and then turned it around, went 4-0 in June. So he still has a chance to turn around June into July. Tomlin followed the leader very much like last night. Kluber threw a lot of strikes. 78% strikes, and the pinpoint control, didn't walk anybody, but threw 3 home runs. The big one being the home run to Manny Machado, which tied the game from 5-2 to 5-5.
Here's Wellington Castillo, the only Oriole not to bat in the 5th. Goody stays on. 0-1 on the swing and a miss. Wellington has grounded out, although in fairness to Wellington, he was robbed of a base hit by Jose Ramirez at third, who went into a dive and snared his 100-mile-an-hour chopper. Got him at first, and then he struck out.
Yeah, Brian Shaw is the right-hander, and then the lefty, as you've seen, is Boone Logan. And Brian Shaw, Mr. Cutter. Boy, can he throw some cut fastballs.
And the Indians with an 8-man bullpen. Hardly any room to sit out there. Callaway, the pitching coach, does a real nice job with this club.
Well, you could see that Nick Goody, I mean, he likes his slider, and why not? Because it's a pretty good one. He's trying to stay down in the zone. I mean, it's almost 50-50 between how often he throws his fastball slider. He may have another pitch, but haven't seen it. And there's a good slider. It's such a great pitch. You know, worked last night for Corey Kluber. It was almost like his slider took a left at home plate. And again, you don't see it. A lot of deception the way he uses his front side, and then perfectly thrown right on the corner.
Well, with Hyun-Soo Kim due up, it looks like we're going to get Boone Logan as we see Castillo swing and a miss. So pitching change here. Logan comes on in the 6th. The defending world champion Cubs, July 14th through the 16th, right here at Oriole Park. And for each game, fans are encouraged to bring any non-perishable food item or cash donation to the park to benefit the Maryland Food Bank as part of the 31st annual Orioles Reach Food and Funds Drive presented by Masson and WJZ TV. For tickets, Orioles.com or 888-848-BIRD.
So Boone Logan comes on last year with Colorado, and he's a big guy, 6'5", over 240 pounds, hard thrower, 94-mile-per-hour fastball, hard slider, and loves to throw the slider. Low batting averages. Now that's a little bit higher. Pitched last pitched in the weekend series, 2 of the 4 games against the Twins.
Now Joey Rickard's going to pinch hit for Kim to get the righty against the lefty.
Yeah, Logan coming off a year in Colorado where they only hit 166. I mean, the record is a guy that's a hold, a hold guy is what, 2 and 5, but only gave up 27 hits in 46 and third innings last year as a specialist.
Swings through a fastball, 1-1. Joey 0 for his last 9 and has 8 hits in his last 34 at-bats. Those 34 at-bats in the month of June. So a .235 batting average this month. And this is how he's been used quite a bit as of late. Coming off the bench to pinch hit or going defensively for Hyun-Soo Kim when he starts in left field. And Buck Showalter got Craig Gentry back today. Another solid defender. And a possible pinch runner off the bench. Back 2-2.
Yeah, it's funny. Boone Logan's only 32, but you look at how guys morph into being relievers.
He signs with the White Sox and he pitches for Great Falls back in 2003 and 4. And the first year he goes 3-3 with a 6.58 ERA, which is very high, almost 7 runs a game. They go, well, we'll give you another year. So he goes 3-7 with a 5.60, and he has not started a game anywhere since.
And he gets Joey Rickard.
Yeah, a little slider that goes straight down. And boy, it's tough to pinch hit. You know, you don't get to see these guys. And again, the veteran pitchers, the slider might be a little different speed within the at bat. Take a little bit off, add a little bit.
Well, Boone Logan broke in with the White Sox as a 21-year-old. Made his big league debut in 2006. This is his 612th game.
Always been around, and with the Yankees, and, 3 years with Colorado.
Tejada takes a strike. Tejada got the rally going in the 5th with a 1-out single. Chased the pitch and he's 0-2.
And of course, he's been in what? I mean, you start looking coming into this year, what, 581 games, only 410 innings. So again, he stayed healthy. He's managed to be able to be a left-handed specialist.
Well, how about in 2012 when he pitched for the Yankees and they won the AL East that year? He pitched in 80 games, 55 1/3 innings. And Tejada waves at it. So he goes down on strikes. Orioles 3 strikeouts in the inning, 2 by Logan. We head to the 7th in a 5-5 game. Break brought to you by T-Mobile. Let's get a look around the division. The Angels now lead the Yankees 6-3 in the 7th. Judge and Sanchez have homered for New York, but it was a 3-3 game in the 7th. And Cameron Maybin hit one out on Tyler Clippard. Angels have since added 2 runs, so lead at 6-3. Rays lead the Reds 6-2 in the 7th. Corey Dickerson 2 for 4 with his 16th home run. Rangers lead the Blue Jays 5-0 in the 5th, scoring 3 of the 5 runs with 2 down. And the Red Sox lead in Kansas City 5-1 in the 5th with Chris Sale on the mound. So far 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run.
Yeah, Parker Bridwell, a former Oriole that was, I think, traded or
yeah, he was DFA'd and then
traded for cash or whatever. He pitched 5 innings against the Yankees, 2 hits, 2 runs, pitched around a few people, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts. So he's got a couple of starts for the Angels and then a relief appearance.
That's off the end of the bat. That's a tough play, and that's going to fall in there for a base hit. So Ramirez has his 2nd hit. And when you're tied for 6th in the league in base hits, that's how you do it.
Well, 300 hitter last year, 300 hitter this year, and that average going up. Of course, this year hitting doubles and home runs and you name it. gets this guy to the plate. With what 39 home RBIs on the year. 7 of those 17 home runs in the month of June. And one of the problems, again, in a 12-0 game, you wouldn't like to have these guys see all your bullpen. And so what they say, Noah, but they also saw, what, 24 pitches. So Blyer he actually got to Encarnacion to pop up last night, but he got a chance to see him. So a little bit more in tune to how he throws and what the release point is.
Yeah, and the inning was extended because of 2 errors in the ninth.
A little change up right there, but you know, Richard usually does a good job of pitching the contact. And for a guy that doesn't, you know, is not a strike. I mean, he's going to strike you out. He's going to kind of finesse you for a strikeout. He's not a power pitcher by any means.
Bounce foul.
Gets him to chase out of the zone.
Donnie Hart back with the team today. He was sent down to AAA on June 7th. Replaces Vidal Nuno, who was optioned back to AAA. So Hart and Blyer, the 2 lefties. Encarnacion has seen Blyer just once. He's 0 for 1 against him. Now ball's pulled foul. He was right on it, but out in front.
Well, he popped up a change up or a little slider down inside last night, and that's my point. You know, because normally, especially with young pitchers, you don't want to expose them.
Ramirez on at first after a leadoff single in this tie game. Here's what Encarnacion did in the first against Chris Tillman.
Well, he got an early slider that they actually picked Lindor off, and then he hit this one a long way. 454 feet, I think they measured. At least that's what they said.
And into the second deck.
Yeah. Laid off that changeup. You know, we see a lot of home runs into the second deck here.
Blyer left in. Ramirez, who singled, a switch hitter, so you flip him to the other side. Now Encarnacion and Chisenhall, left-handed batters on deck. At the moment, no one getting loose in the Oriole pen. Vicious swing, and he fouled it back.
Yeah, till you actually stand next to Edwin Encarnacion, you don't realize how big he is. I thought when they traded, talking about Toronto before he came as a free agent, as you mentioned, 3-year deal, what about $20 million a year here. He was a third baseman, and they moved him across to Diamond, DH first baseman.
Just outside.
And that's why he can hit the ball as far as he does to any part of the field.
And another long at bat. This will be the 7th pitch. Encarnacion, 7 seasons with at least 20 home runs, 5 straight seasons of at least 34 home runs. It's going to be a base hit off the end of the bat. Ramirez thought about going to third, but he puts on the brakes.
Yeah, one way or the other. We told you 17 hits last night with the 12 runs and the 10 extra base hits. Even now, 2 flares. They fight them off, but they fight them off over the heads of the Orioles infielders. They get runners at first and second, nobody out.
Fans, MLB.TV every night on every device. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live, plus get a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Miguel Castro is getting loose. He was up last inning. Orioles are expecting a bunt here in this tie game. Chisenhall does square, and he bunts at third base side. It's a beauty. Blyer's got to hurry. Gets it there just in time.
That's a nice little play. He made it look routine. because he actually calls off Manny Machado, who had a much better angle. And I think initially you're going, uh-oh, right here. I mean, nice bunt, like he's done it all his life. And there Manny gets out of the way, and then a nice little throw to Jonathan Scope, Orioles second baseman. I mean, got the bat out in front. Did Lonnie Chisenhall. I mean, #1 draft choice know how to bunt. Supposed to be hitting home runs and driving in runs.
And here was an intentional walk, so that'll set up the possibility for a ground ball double play to end the inning. And here comes Buck. And we'll have another pitching change here tonight. Terry Francona's made 2. Buck about to make his 3rd, as Miguel Castro will come on. So a couple of flare hits, 2nd and 3rd, 1 down in a tie game in the 7th.
Orioles pitched last on Sunday. Actually threw the ball pretty well. Did give up a home run, solo shot to Yadier Molina of the Cardinals. So again, the big test, you load him up because you want to set up the double play, but he has walked 4 and done a nice job. Not a whole lot of inherited runners, but he stranded all of them. And another good number, 0 for 3 with the first batter, as you're looking for an out here. Gomes, of course, trying to either get a ball in the air, get a base hit, do something other than popping up, striking out, or hitting a double play ball.
Well, Castro, in his brief time with the Orioles, this is his 6th game. He has thrown 1 ground ball for a double play. So the 22-year-old in this game, and again, this is another situation where with the undermanned pen, the roles are changed, and pitchers with less experience getting bigger roles by default because they're needed.
And that's one of the reasons some have on occasion been successful, and mostly they haven't been. But that'll work. I mean, just looked like the slider was a little better. It did give up a home run on a 97-mile-per-hour fastball, but it looks like Alan Mills, the bullpen coach, in his first year, they're kind of working on his windup, but it seemed like he had a better release point on Sunday.
That pitch was sailing inside, and Jones fouled it off.
That was one of these backup sliders, and they're hard to hit. You could see, and that ball was way inside.
Roger McDowell with Blyer. Dylan Bundy listening in. So Castro gets ahead of him 0-2. Struck him out. 3 consecutive sliders.
Well, the first one was a get me over, actually pretty good one. The second one backed up, and this one kind of hangs, but it hangs up and away. And Yan Gomes can't get the fly ball. Can't even make contact, and they do get what they want. The other thing about Miguel Castro, he is 6'7", and he is all arms and legs, so there's a lot of deception. And now he's got to face a rookie that looks like he has a pretty good eye. I mean, he's not chasing a lot of pitches out of the zone, at least not yet.
Huge foul, 0-1.
And there's a it's like this is a veteran out here. He's 22 years old. He's throwing sliders. That was a perfect changeup. Must be the book on Bradley Zimmer, a pretty good fastball hitter, and he drops off an 88-mile changeup, and it was actually right on the corner.
So the changeup has more velocity than the slider.
Yes, and we haven't even seen 95 to 97. I mean, he's got a good arm, and you like he's last year pitched for Colorado, not well. There's another changeup, and not even close to being a strike. That one. Now, I think for young pitchers, you come in and your best pitch may be your fastball, but they're asking you in this role that you talked about, again, because everybody's kind of been moved forward, you know, to pitch to the book. So he did it to Gomes. He was able to say, okay, let's get him out with breaking balls, and he threw him 4 in a row.
Now back 1-2, so there's the first fastball.
And he's late on it, and he made a good pitch. So you'd like to think, I mean, you've got a couple of balls to waste. You don't want to go 3-2, but you, in this count, you can try to entice him to expand the strike zone and make your pitch, whatever it might be. Bases full of Indians.
Big moment in this game, 5-5 in the 7th. And Castro gets Zimmer to get out of it. 1-2 the count, and time requested at the plate. Ground ball to first. There's Mancini. He goes to the bag, and Castro gets out of it. Outstanding job by the 22-year-old. We head to the bottom of the 7th. Our Honda do-ups. Top of the lineup, Smith, Machado, and Jones. Stretch the Hyundai Better Than Ever sales event with the best total savings on select models in Hyundai's history. It's going on now at your Hyundai dealer. So a 5-5 game. All the runs charged to each starter. Here's Seth Smith against Boone Logan. Castro got out of a bases loaded 1-out jam and did not allow Cleveland to get the lead. Outstanding job. Smith getting a chance to face a lefty. He's 5 for 15 against lefties this year, and he's quickly down in the count 0-2.
Well, this will be a test. Like we said, Boone Logan, big guy at 6'5". And he's got a good arm. He's got a good slider. And then he does exactly what he wants to, which is get ahead. And Seth will be scuffling to try to make contact. And there's the hard slider at 85.
Brian Shaw continuing to get loose. Right-handers follow Smith. In fact, 8 consecutive right-handers follow Smith because Rickard's now in the game.
Wow.
And he got him.
Yeah, I tell you, normally it wouldn't be too hard to relieve him, but when you have the best bullpen in the American League, I mean, this is just Powder River right here. Try to hit it. That's a pretty good swing, and 95. Actually, doesn't get it really where the glove is, but good enough velocity, and out comes Terry Francona.
So Boone Logan, Jim, faces 3 batters, 3 strikeouts, and then he hands the baseball off to Brian Shaw.
Game of matchups.
So Shaw comes on in this tie game in the 7th.
Done a nice job. I mean, how about 70, 80, 74, 75 games for the Indians the last 4 years. Only the 1 home run. Lefties and righties. He only throws 2 pitches. 90% fast, cut fastballs with a velocity of somewhere. The average one is 94. So good arm, and then a slider that's right around 82 miles per hour. He's done a terrific job, won a lot of games for him. And let's see, Manny, 2 home runs already. Solo shot the first inning off a curveball. Cutter 3-run home run to tie it.
And our Lexus 1000 driving the game. Let's go back to the first.
Yeah, really not that bad a curveball, except that it sails out of here. Orioles were down 2-0 at that time, and then they would be trailing 5-2 when he would hit the 3-run home run. There's the slider. So 94, kind of really what the scouting report says.
Lexus of Towson, the area's #1 volume Lexus dealer for 7 straight years. Come see why at lexusoftowson.com.
A little bit of extra by Brian Shaw.
Michael Divins now getting ready.
Well, 42 pitches on Saturday, so or actually make it Sunday. So
he was a workhorse, and again, really only at least guys with some experience. It's Gibbons and Brock in the Oriole bullpen.
And he protects.
Yeah, Shaw going a little bit better stuff. Hasn't pitched in 3 days, so 94 has become 95, 96. Nobody's pitched more innings since 2013 than Brian Shaw. Gibbons did pitch on Saturday, and that it seems like you wouldn't have needed him in that 15-8 game.
Exactly right. Manny Machado, right field. That ball has carry, and at the wall, it is off the wall, and it's in play. And Machado's going to be at second base with a double. It just missed. Chisenhall did all he could do, and it just eluded his glove. Machado, a perfect night. He's 4 for 4.
Yeah, a little cutter out over the plate. You could see that cut and right there, and I think he thinks it's out. But it doesn't go out, and you know, again, I mean, he's already hit 2. So again, I mean, where would you like to be? I'd like to be at third. But again, if you don't run, and everybody's watching it, including the guy that hit it, unfortunately, because it would have put a lot of pressure with a tie ball game to be at third base. It's one of those little nuances of the game. You run hard.
Line drive down the right field line. Base hit for Adam Jones. It's into the corner. Machado scores. Adam hustling at second base. He has an RBI double. And the Orioles have the lead at 6-5. Back-to-back opposite field hits, and the Birds are in front.
Well, they know Brian Shaw. They know he's good, and they know he's going to throw cutters. You know, occasionally a slider. So again, what's your approach? I mean, inside out, he gets it in the middle of the plate. You know it's going to be between 94 and 95. And actually, Chisenhall does a nice job to make it close, but this is going to get Machado in as he slices it down the line off the wall, and well, the Orioles take the lead.
And still only 1 down. So how about that as Trumbo swings through it? Terry Francona has the best bullpen in baseball, so you match up. Boone Logan taken out after he faced the lefty Smith with all those righties coming up, and back-to-back doubles as the Orioles going with the pitch. Oh, 0-2.
Yeah, a little bit off it. More like a curveball. Don't see that very often. Well, you get the lead and you like to add to it. Got a couple of shots with Jones with 1 out to do that.
0-2 on Trumbo. Chopper. Adams going to go to third. Lindor has 1 play, and he gets it to first to get Trumbo 2 down. With Adam now 90 feet away. Trumbo 0 for 4. So Adam Jones comes through. An RBI to break the tie. Adam with a 2-hit game. His multi-hit games are starting to pile up. He now has 19, and Manny's over there telling Scott Coolball, look, I went with the pitch. I hit it to right field.
Well, that's what I mean, he did hit 37 home runs last year, but he does hit the ball to right field with the best of them, as does this young kid here.
Mancini 1 out of 2. He's also drawn a walk. He had his 9-game hitting streak snapped last night against Kluber, starting another one today. Michael Gibbons still warming to come in. Bounce to second. There's Kipnis. And he'll retire Mancini, and the Orioles are done here in the 7th. But Adam Jones comes through. He jumps on the first pitch. Line drive down the right field line. That scores Machado. The Birds now have the lead. In the scoring position of 1 pitch later, Adam Jones delivered him in to break the tie. Welcome into the booth, Jim Hunter with Jim Palmer. Don't forget, come on out and join us tomorrow night. Dylan Bundy t-shirt night tomorrow night. So plenty of tickets available, $15 or less. And the Orioles trying to turn this around here tonight. This would be some kind of win coming from behind.
Yeah, well, they got a lead. Now you got to hold it. And I thought he was 24, actually. Oh, that's his age.
Right.
Get it, Jim? Stay with me. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, Gibbons, again, he throws the 42 pitches. It's the most he's ever thrown, and because you needed, the win on Saturday. And again, you know, he was brilliant. Came in with the bases loaded, struck him out. So you hope he can get through the 8th, maintain the lead, and then you go to your closer, Brad Brock. That's the way it's supposed to work.
I was told there would be no math.
No what? No math?
No math.
Oh, okay. Well, you were wrong.
Here's Givens.
Yeah, good. Well, obviously, he always wins because that's what he does.
He's the vulture.
Yeah, I mean, 8 wins last year. The numbers have gone down dramatically. We'll see how he comes out of that long stint on Saturday. So he's done a nice job, and converted infielder. If you haven't heard the story, and about the play he made on Saturday, that line drive back up the middle that he knocked down and threw the runner out. So very athletic, and he's got a really good arm. He's got a slider and a changeup to go with it.
Joey Rickard moves from left field to right field, and Craig Gentry now back with the team. He is in left field, and he goes in the Seth Smith spot in the batting order. Two and two on Jackson. Lindor and Kipnis will follow, and there's McAllister. In the Cleveland bullpen, Zach McAllister. Givens has been pitching very, very well for the Orioles. Very close pitch there, 3-2. In his last 9 games, he's allowed just 1 run. And that was on a solo home run by Hansen in Chicago.
Chase ball 4, and that's easy to do. When you're a sidewinder and you're righty versus righty, and you can throw 94 to 97. Boy, it's tough to go 3-2 on the first batter you're facing. You don't want to pitch in the middle of the plate. I always felt that you had to maybe throw it a little bit more over the plate when you get in these counts, especially with a run lead.
Ground ball towards the middle. Tejada nicely to his left. Low throw and scoop by Mancini.
Well, he bailed him out there because that was not a good throw. Got to it quickly. Does not make a good throw, but that's why your first baseman underrated, especially Mancini. So again, just it bounces it. He was out early working today, not on the pop-ups that he wasn't able to catch, but you can see it's almost like a turf throw. He made it look routine, didn't he?
Well, last week in Chicago, when Chris Davis, the first game he did not start, Bobby Dickerson had Trey Mancini out very early doing the fungo drill. And this helped Chris Davis tremendously a few years ago in spring training. And what Bobby Dickerson, who's the infield coach, does, he stands on the third base side and he hits fungos at Mancini, so he's forced to scoop them. So get accustomed to playing those balls in the dirt. Of course, you never know when it's going to do that. You just have to be ready. And here, another scoop by Mancini. So Bobby Dickerson really does a very good job of preparing his infielders for what might happen. And to Mancini's credit, out early doing that work.
Well, he can be a taskmaster, as he is, and of course, he a long-time minor league manager, and he was actually, when Manny was coming through the minor leagues, a lot of tough love to get him to understand what the. Right there, Lindor goes, really? It's been a wide plate on occasion. I mean, it's just what it is. But now, can you throw another one right there and get him to chase? Yep, he did. Perfect pitch.
Right back to Givens, the former infielder. Easy play, 2 down.
She had no choice but to swing because of Kerwin Danley expanding the zone, and you know that's what umpires can do. I'm not blaming him. You have to give Givens. He made a terrific pitch. He took advantage of the wide strike zone. There are a couple of Hall of Fame pitchers that could do that. Glavine and Maddox. You know, you give them a ball off the corner, they'll throw it there and maybe a little bit off.
Well, those guys, they would test umpires early in game to see just how much they were going to get away with.
Well, you're right. And if the umpire gave it to them, otherwise they moved the ball over. And when they went to the test, the Quest Tech, where they had the 3 cameras, that's a perfect fastball. That's when maybe the strike zone got a little narrower for them. Bobby Cox, who was the Hall of Fame manager, got thrown out more times than any manager in the history of baseball. Didn't like that.
Well, pitchers love getting strikes that aren't strikes.
Yeah, they tell the story about how Bobby watched that for Friday and Saturday and finally Sunday. And went out. The umpire actually called one a little bit off the plate. He went out and the guy said, "You can't argue balls and strikes. I'm going to throw you out." Or he said, "No, I just came out to congratulate you. Finally got it right." And he got tossed.
Meantime, it's 3-1 on Kipnis in this 1-run game.
Well, he's trying to throw it for the corner, and you know, you got one of the hottest hitters in baseball on deck. And of course, Kipnis hit a home run last night, one of the 10 extra base hits. So he hit it a long way, pulled it to right field. Now you got to have more of the plate here.
And he popped him up shallow left. There's Gentry. And he's got it. Michael Givens has a 3-up, 3-down 8th. We head to the bottom of the 8th. O's come to bat looking for insurance. Three of the 4-game series. Kevin Gausman will go on against Carlos Carrasco. Our coverage on MASN begins at 6:30 with those extra presented by Southwest, and then game coverage at 7 o'clock. We've got all the access you need right here on MASN.
Well, Carlos Carrasco, boy, he can pitch. They get him over 6 runs a game. The whip, that's walks and hits per innings. It's just about 1 per inning, very low. And again, Kevin Gausman, no, that is not a misprint. He has not pitched well. Certainly capable of pitching better, and tomorrow hopefully that will happen. And of course the Orioles will try to add some runs as we look at Zach McAllister, hard throwing right-hander, will come in. And as we mentioned, they have a great bullpen, and he's part of it. You haven't even seen the closer, Cody Allen or Andrew Miller, and you know, Dan Otero can pitch. They have a lot of good arms out there. You know, he throws in the mid-90s with a big breaker. So Givens comes in and makes great pitches.
So Givens, affectionately called the Vulture for all the wins he gets in the bullpen. Tonight it was a hold situation for him. If this lead holds for the Orioles and they're 3 outs away, As Brad Brock gets loose for the save, it would be the first big league win for Miguel Castro.
Well, he came in and got some huge outs.
Jonathan gets a hanger and rips it into left field. And there's what you're talking about. He doesn't miss him.
Well, you just go ask Casilla, who pitched for the Giants last year when he hit the walk, not the walk off, but the 3-run home run. And you hang a curveball, and that's what he does here. He's all over it. But you'd like to, I mean, obviously score more runs, but how do you do that? Well, how about advancing the runners? Take a shot to right. I don't care if you hit a high chopper to the right side, get the runner in scoring position.
Ball one outside. Pacing. Castillo is hitless tonight. Ground ball to third. This could be two. Ramirez second out there. Back to first. There's a double play. 5-4-3.
Yeah, hard to do that. I mean, he throws you a riding fastball after hanging the curveball. It goes, probably not a good idea. And Ramirez, who's a very good infielder, makes it look easy. Over to Kipnis to Santana.
So Castillo 0 for 4. Double play erases the leadoff hit. And here's Joey Rickard for his second at bat. He pinch hit for Hyun-Soo Kim in the 6th against Boone Logan and struck out. Fastball right there for a strike.
Yeah, 9 of the 23 games that Zach McAllister has pitched in, he's pitched multi innings, and gives you a little bit of length and a power arm at the back or the middle part of your bullpen.
So the O's go down in the 8th. Brock coming out for the save. Earlier tonight, it was the Orioles Birdland Social, the social media night. Hey, Jim Palmer was there, and Brad Brock was the player who the Orioles featured. Brad got to mingle with the fans, answer fan questions, pose for pictures, as he had a good time out there in the roof deck bar in center field. Ryan Wagner part of that as well, the Orioles public address announcer, Rock Kabako and Dan Duquette. So fun time had by all. And here's Brad Brock on for the save.
Well, hasn't had a lot of opportunities. Did get one against the Cardinals on Sunday, 8-5 victory. Before that, he hadn't had an opportunity since the 2nd of June because of the fact that there just hadn't been winning that many games. So having a great year. Had a couple of glitches. We talked to Zach Britton before last year. He would have what, maybe 3 a year or whatever, but done a nice job. Maybe changed his windup a little bit taller, and he will have to do this against some well, the heart of the order, but some hot hitters. Ramirez, again, he's maybe a different hitter, but he's 0 for 4 against Brad Brock, and Encarnacion, who's on deck, 286 with a home run.
Brad has been pitching very, very well. It's ahead 0-1. In fact, 11 consecutive scoreless appearances. He is 1-0 with 4 saves in those 11 games. No runs. And how about this, Jim? Last 11 appearances, a total of 1 base hit.
Well, he said the key, and not only in closing situations, but just in having, shutout innings as the first batter. But you get an idea of how good Ramirez. I mean, there's 97. There's his changeup. He's got a slider to go with it. About as good as you can throw it. It dives down and away, and he still has a pretty good swing. So he's a tough out. But 0-2 allows you, hopefully, for Brad, if you're rooting for the Orioles, that you can pitch out of the zone maybe. But where do you want to go? Looks like maybe a changeup. Yeah, it is, but not close. Yeah, it's when you do your film work, and he's, every time you walk in the locker room, it seems early before they go out for batting practice, he's looking at something and, looking either at himself or what, how certain guys hit. But he knows how hot Jose Ramirez is. And then right there, if you're not hot, you swing at that pitch, and he took it. We saw it last night off of Dylan Bundy.
He's got an 8-game hitting streak going, and he has 21 hits in that streak. Cody Allen getting loose just in case. Protecting the outside corner to stay alive.
Yeah, and because of the fact that he can hit home runs, Brad's more comfortable to his arm side, which is away to lefties. And then who's on deck.
2-2 on Ramirez, leading off here in the 9th. And another foul ball.
Yeah, 96. They did try to go in, and and Casillas saying, okay, now what?
So Ramirez, who's a pesky hitter, about to see a 7th pitch leading off here in the 9th. Bounce to Scope. Jonathan to his left has it. And that all-important first out in the 9th inning. So 1 away in the 9th. Orioles baseball on Masson is brought to you by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency.
Well, you're 2 outs away from winning 3 of your last 4 games. You could break the Indians' 6-game winning streak.
Get back to 500.
Yeah, get back to 500. Of course, this will be a test. The way he's swinging the bat. And there's a slider. And he goes, yep, didn't want to swing at that one. Yeah, so that's what we talked about, the 286 with the 1 home run. Already hit 2-run shot in the first inning.
Fastball misses low at 98. Miguel Castro, he's 2 outs away from his first big league win.
Well, how about bringing him in and loading up the bases, bringing him in, and he gets out of the inning with a strikeout and a ground out. And then Gibbons to our left, his right, pitches the 8th. And there's a fastball you can see right on the corner.
Well, Buck reminded the media before the game that all of the activity with the players coming and going in the bullpen, there are opportunities for somebody to seize it. Maybe Miguel Castro is one of those somebodies who's going to seize it. Buck said you wouldn't want to have to make all these moves. You do it because it's a necessity. And Donnie Hart's back today. So maybe we're seeing a 22-year-old develop into a reliable reliever.
Well, you're auditioning. I mean, every time you pitch.
A very late granting of time to Encarnacion.
Well, he wasn't ready, and would have been good if you could have pitched to him when he wasn't ready. Because he's ready now. And a little changeup. Yeah, when you get in these situations, whether you're a closer or in my day a starting pitcher, you're going, okay, you know what he's hit. Brad can tell you where that home run was, and where's his power. And that's better high ball hitter, but he hits a lot of pitches. So where can I go? I still have a pitch to work with here to keep the ball in the ballpark. And there's another changeup.
He has some kind of batting eye.
And I think what happened was in Wellington Castillo, I mean, I thought he made a pretty good pitch, 97 on the outside corner, but he had a pretty good swing. And that's when Wellington Castillo came out and said, well, maybe he saw something that I didn't see, or maybe even Brad. So back-to-back changeups, and now what?
And the 3-2 is swung on and bounced foul.
So 3 consecutive changeups, and he doesn't throw that many changeups to righties.
So back-to-back extended at bats. Ramirez grounded out in the 7th pitch, and Encarnacion about to see a 7th pitch.
And he's saying, okay, I have to hit off at 97 because I've seen that, and then try to adjust anything else. And he walked him.
So the tying run is on with 1 down.
And he earned that walk.
So the tying run is on, and here's Daniel Robertson off the bench to pinch run for Encarnacion. So Encarnacion getting the high fives on the bench as he earns that walk.
Well, he's the tie and run, and now you bring the potential go-ahead run to the plate. And of course, that's the intimidation factor why the Indians went out and got him. I mean, that's why Toronto, even though they came back and won a game last night, down 1 run in the 9th inning. But that's why he was so important to their lineup.
Lonnie Chisenhall now. Outside, ball 1. Back-to-back 7-pitch at-bats, tying run on, go-ahead run at the plate. Encarnacion, 2nd in the league in drawing walks. Ball 2.
Well, a typical pitch inning, and he's right at it now, is 16 for Brad Brock. He's a power pitcher. The one thing about Zach Britton, he can get himself in trouble and out of trouble with the sinker. They put 140 balls in play off of Zach Britton last year, and they were only 13 in the air. What an advantage that is. If you do get a guy on, you can make 1 pitch and get a double play.
Ball 3. Well, he walked Encarnacion with 1 out. First walk allowed by Brock since May 24th.
Well, that swing, and I don't think he was intimidated, but Wellington came out and said something, but he threw a great fastball. He swung at it on the outside corner. And there's that ball again about 3 inches off the outside corner or more, but it allows him at least get back into the count.
Chisenhall 1 for 4 against Brock. Santana's on deck, fouled off, 3-2.
Yeah, so he's not going to take a ball, especially now.
Well, 3 consecutive 3-2 counts.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a lot of balance in this lineup. Got close to 40 RBIs from Encarnacion to Chisenhall to Santana hitting right behind him.
Runner doesn't go, and it's foul back again.
Yeah, I mean, you could see for Lonnie Chisenhall, former #1 draft choice, he's content, as we saw earlier in the game, and even last night, hit the double up the gap on a changeup. He'll hit the ball back up the middle. So he's not, I mean, he may react to a ball inside and try to drive one, but he's very content hitting it to left field. And the Orioles outfield very deep. And they're kind of in the double defense, and they've yet to run either.
And another foul ball.
So he's forcing Brad Brock to either stay there or come in, and then maybe the pitch becomes more hittable. And that pitch at 98. So you know what the pitch is. It's probably a changeup, but you know, when he tried to do that to Encarnacion, he was a little bit wild, and the last thing he wants to do is walk Chisenhall.
Another foul ball. Wow. The Indians, to a man, just prolong at bats. 4 foul balls keeping this at bat going. And this will be the 9th pitch coming to Chisenhall. Line drive, base hit the opposite way.
And then there's the changeup, and it stays up because you had to throw a strike. And I mean, he's all over it. Great approach. He just kind of drops the elbow, and so it stays flat, and he's not going to miss it. So 98, he hits foul, and 88, he hits into left field.
And either way, he would have been on. That was ball 4. He happened to swing at it and make contact. So McDowell out for a chat to give Brad a little breather. So already 23 pitches to face 3 batters, and he's had only 1 out. Got Ramirez to ground out to end the inning. And he has another hitter coming up here. Is very patient. However, he has grounded Carlos into 6 double plays. So the tying run at second, go ahead run is on at first, and only 1 down. And there's a strike, came in with a changeup.
Yeah, and a good one. And Carlos Santana, as Donnie Hart, who just was recalled today, gets up and starts throwing. That's probably for Bradley Zimmer, in case this inning goes that long. Yeah, I always thought, I mean, it's a different mentality when you're a closer, but in the old days when you would pitch 9, 10, 11 innings, if you had to, you never wanted the winning run. That's where you're concerned, especially at home. And that's another good changeup, and that's what Buck Showalter was thinking. That's why Hart's up. So back-to-back great changeups. You talked about the double play. Those are ideal double play balls, but he can't make contact. So the one thing we told you about Carlos Santana, I mean, he walks a lot. He had power, 34 home runs, but he also strikes out a lot. And if that's going to be what you need, you're an ability right here at the count to do it.
3 consecutive changeups that time Santana took. The lead runner's the pinch runner Robertson. He's at second. And Chisenhall at first with 1 down. Wow. Just inside, 2-2.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's funny. Maybe it's a shade inside off the plate. Ooh. And maybe the way he moved his glove, and yep. So he certainly set him up for another changeup down and away if he can throw it. But what, 27 pitches, and it's not like he's wild. They're just making him work.
Ground ball to first. Mancini turns, goes to second, out there, back to first, not in time. The inning continues on the hustle by Santana. But now 2 men down in the inning.
Yeah, you pull the ball, you get out of the box a little bit more. And again, Mancini, you know, Trey's out here working now. He'll be a little. It's just not Chris Davis, so it's not the kind of. Yeah, I mean, he certainly gets it done, but Chris is so gifted because you know, he's fearless when it comes to throwing. So just make sure there's your transfer, and you're right about Santana. He's getting down the line and trying to keep this game alive, and he does. So how about Gomes, who came in with the bases loaded off of Castro and struck out on sliders? He gets a chance to redeem himself, and Brad Brock would love to get him out.
So the tying run is at third. The go-ahead run is at first. 2 down in the ninth as the O's try to get even in this series with a win. Went right at him with a fastball. 0-1.
Yeah, only 3 at bats lifetime. And right here, he's not wasting any time chasing 97 up and away.
Fly ball to right. Rickard has a play, backing up on it near the wall. He makes the catch, and the Orioles hang on and win it. And Miguel Castro has a big league victory. His first major league win, and he earned it. Coming on with the bases loaded and 1 down in the 7th and getting out of the jam.
Well, you saw Ubaldo Jimenez. He knows that he's the pitcher of record. Manny Machado with the big night. That's the Orioles break that 6-game winning streak of the Indians.
So Miguel Castro picks up his first big league win. Manny Machado goes 4 for 4, and Adam Jones breaks the tie in the 7th.